Okay, it's 7:04. We should probably get going. I think that might be in the camera.
Yeah, I feel like it would.
Start button.
What does it look like? Can anyone see on the camera? Or?
It's looking good. Pretty.
We're watching it.
Are we gonna go live, or just let me know? Give me a countdown.
We're live.
Oh,
We're live.
hey everyone, Mike Rosehart here with.
Matt McKeever, what's up, YouTube?
We are doing the Wisewell show at McKeever's place right now, so feel free to ask us anything. I'm gonna try to find this on my phone here when the notification pops up.
So yeah, we're in the Mastermind Mansion, or the Mansion Mastermind. I don't know, we're not really good on naming or branding, so we're still struggling with that. But yeah, it's just kind of a collaborative space, similar to kind of what you're doing with your own mentee house. So.
Yeah, similar to the mentee house, very much. He's got the energy. There's Peter in the back, Kyle's here, Dylan's here. All the boys are kind of chilling here, and
yeah,
feel free to jump in with any questions. I think we're live. I haven't got a notification yet. I don't know if anyone can. Is anyone in the chat?
Yeah, there's people in the chat already.
Oh, okay. Who's in the chat?
We got Austin Y saying yes. Gabriel.
So
Angel?
who did you guys watch originally? Was it my channel, Mike's channel? How did you get into this?
Okay, I can see it. So
Okay,
it's
awesome.
going to start in a sec here. Oh, look. I can
we
see
go.
myself. Meta. How's it going, guys? Good to see you on. What's up? I see. Okay, Hungarian's there.
Do you want to turn your sound off? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to do that right now. Live. William says live. Eric, how you doing? Good to see you on as well. Mike in the right ear, Matt in the left ear, Jake says. Nice. Got the best of both. Just penetrating the brain with knowledge bombs. Okay, so you guys can, in the first few minutes, we'll just kind of chat.
Yeah.
Usually what I do is just update people what I've been up to since last week, what kind of things I've been crushing. We can kind of give them a debrief on you. You've been on my channel maybe when I started it around 7 months ago.
Yeah.
So you can check out his video, retired at 31, real estate investor.
Yeah.
Social
YouTuber.
media, big time into social media now.
Yeah, honestly, I guess just high level, my backstory is CPA by trade. So started off in public accounting, did that for about 5 years, and started investing in real estate at 25, buying a house a year. What happened around year 3 of buying houses was I started hitting kind of a financing wall where around mortgage 3 to 5, it starts becoming a little bit difficult. At the time, I wasn't networking at all, so I just took the bank's word. So CIBC was like, oh, you need to go get a much higher paying job if you want to qualify for more debt. And I was like, okay, cool, I guess I'll go do that.
Yeah.
And so then I got into the pharmaceutical industry, worked as a financial controller there, and at 31, quit the rat race because of real estate investing, got into this, and originally, like when I quit, I was really aimless, right? So like London on Fire didn't exist then. There was like a Bigger Pockets meetup and a Lyric real estate meetup, but like they weren't the real communities we have today. And so like I really found myself very aimless for those first 6 months. And like I've mentioned on my YouTube channel,
Andrew.
I just wasted a lot of time like drinking, smoking weed, and just goofing around playing video games. But like after 6 months of doing that, like you wake up and you look at what you've done with the last 6 months of your life, and you're like, that's not like it's nothing I'm proud of. It's not a legacy, right?
Sure.
And so what I started doing was trying to write emails to my buddies to convince them to quit their jobs and get into real estate investing. But those emails would be like 5,000 word emails, like a mini essay. No one watched them, or no one read them, no one responded. So then I read a book and it said like talk to your audience in the language they want to talk to. That got me on the YouTube kick, and immediately the feedback loop with YouTube is just so amazing compared to
huge.
anything else I'd ever
100%.
experienced. So I love the fact that we can create communities on this platform. So it's
Awesome.
an amazing community you got.
By the way, guys, throw in any questions you have. Before we get these questions, I'm going to let them build up. I see William's question. It's a good one for Matt. I'm going to jump here in a second. Some more good stuff here. Okay, so what have I been up to since last week? Lots has been going on with the mentee program. Still trying to be on track for 1 to 2 properties a week. And we dropped the video on Saturday. It didn't do as well as the other ones that went viral, but it has been doing all right. That thumbnail, I think, was pretty good overall. What else has been up? Lots of comments. Lots and lots of comments I've been responding to. People going through old videos, which has been great, who found the channel. I guess last time we chatted, we were at 5,000-ish subs. We're over 6,000 now. I think we're close to 6,100. So it's been blowing up. Welcome. If you're one of the 1,000 new subscribers, welcome. If you're catching the replay of this video, get ready because you're about to get an hour of knowledge bomb with Matt McKeever. Matt McKeever's been a good friend of mine since 3 years ago.
Yeah.
We've been, the last few months, we haven't had a chance to really connect. Now we've got a chance to connect again. So there'll be some really good content on both my channel and his. The Mike and Matt on Fire segment is coming back. So look for that on his channel. If you are new to, like, just found me and you haven't checked out his channel, check him out. His name's Matt McKeever. You'll find a link. I'll put a link in the comments after. Yeah, so that's sort of the big short and skinny of what's been up. Let's do the first question here. So William says, Matt, how do you go from 4 units to 81 units in just a few years? Yeah, that was an amazing growth strategy.
Yeah, so essentially, I wasn't on that trajectory until I started really thinking about how to grow my portfolio. So initially, like as an accountant, a CPA, like I considered myself very risk adverse. And so like most people kind of project that into also being like debt adverse. And so originally my goal was like pay off my mortgages as fast as possible on each of the rental properties. I'd never refinance, and essentially like 20 years after buying each property, they'd be fully paid off. That was kind of the goal. That was the game plan. But then
amateur,
right? And then what ended up happening was I started really thinking about it, reading more on the subject, just listening to more like great content like Bigger Pockets, and realized no, like the secret sauce to real estate investing is the leverage part. Without the leverage,
don't pay off your mortgages, guys.
Right? Without the leverage, we wouldn't actually invest in real estate. I'd find other investments. I'd probably be buying small businesses or other types of income generators versus real estate. It's the fact that it's very easy to lever up 4 to 5 to 1 on your money, and that you can just repeat that process over and over again. That's what's so attractive. So essentially, that's what I did. And then in addition to that, I started making a rule of never using my own money.
Yes.
And this is really important too if you're looking at really scaling up your portfolio and you don't have a giant mountain of money. What you need to do is use other people's money. And so that can come in a variety of forms. That can be like private financing. But essentially what I did was I just became the active partner, started finding the big juicy deals, and then connecting with guys that I knew that were still working their day job. And they were wealthy, but like not like in insane wealth. They had like lines of credit or home equity lines of credit on their principal residence that they could borrow like $500,000 or $800,000 on, and that's what we used in order to go buy the properties. So literally, my favorite deal was a 20-unit parcel I bought here in London, Ontario, back in 2016, the year I quit my job, and acquired.
How many units did you have when you quit your job?
So at that time, I literally had 3 student rentals, my principal residence, and 2 duplexes.
So these are all single family?
Yeah.
So they were just
5 beds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had what? 3 units, 1 unit, and 4 units.
Yeah.
So you pulled the trigger. With
Oh, and I guess,
8
sorry,
units.
I did have 1 fourplex there too, so 12 units.
So
Yeah.
12. Can anyone see this, by the way, guys? Can you, let me know if someone let me know in the comments if you can see this.
It's a little small.
Okay. If you want, this is maybe a bit bigger of a marker.
Okay, let me try that. Does anyone have an eraser? I can try and redraw it.
This is dry erase, okay.
Or like a cloth.
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt's got
Sausage.
12 units when he pulled the trigger. And we actually did a video today. If you check out my live stream on Instagram, you'll see the actual video. It'll be here for, 20 more hours or 22 more hours. It's going to be on Matt's channel, so check that one out, where we talked about being 2 years post having quit our jobs, right?
True.
And so very much aligned to this.
So yeah.
What stage were you at? You had 12 units, and you went to, 81 in a span of, a year?
Yeah, close to maybe like a year and a half. And so the one video you're referencing, I think, was actually like Graham Steffens, and it was 80 tenants. So it was like 60 units technically, because
okay.
there's like 5 tenants per unit here. So
Yeah.
a little bit cheating. But essentially,
You know what? Everyone cheats a little bit.
in my first year, oh, that marker does not work at all. Okay. In my first year, post having a job, I then went on, bought 2 triplexes. How'd that work? No. I bought a duplex, a triplex, and then the 20 unit. And so literally on that...
Walk us through the 20 unit, because
Yeah.
that's an interesting story.
So this was like, again, this was an opportunity that I could have never done with a day job. And so what happened was I quit my job. I was still a little bit stressed about quitting my job because I always talk about, I had this plan to build the parachute, but I jumped out of the plane before fully building the parachute. So what ended up happening was I had a lot of free time. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with it? Let's figure out some side hustles or something.
Yes.
At the time, I wasn't thinking that I would go all in on real estate per se. I was just like, let's see what would happen. So started scraping Kijiji, looking for like private deal opportunities, just anything else. And so because I'm a CPA and accountant by trade, I thought, let's see if there's any interesting accounting opportunities. And so there's this really weird post by this strange dude who essentially was very cryptic, was like, I'm a landlord and developer here in London. I need a full-time bookkeeper, and I'm willing to pay like $15 an hour. And so anyways, I just responded, I was like, dude, I'm insanely overqualified for this. I'll work for free. Just let me be in your ecosystem. Let me learn from you. I just want to get to know you. He was like, well, this is a really weird response. You definitely need to come into my office and let's at least chat, even if I can't give you a job. I was like, cool. Essentially explained to him that I quit my job and that, coming from corporate finances and this, and he's looking at me like I'm kind of crazy, right? But he was like, you know what? Whatever. Here, start managing my properties. So I started managing his properties, and then he was in the process of developing like a $20 million parcel here in London, a subdivision for 2,000 new homes. And so all of a sudden he realized that he was going to be too busy managing this new development to keep on top of his small portfolio of units that he'd really let go. He jokingly referred to them as his crack houses. So you can kind of
they were rough.
You can tell the quality that he'd of tenants he'd let into that building. So anyways, about 3 months after building up a relationship, working for him just essentially for minimum wage, he said, hey Matt, you seem really interested into these private deals. I want you to sell the 20 unit for me on Kijiji privately. I don't want to pay a realtor. I said, can't do it. He was like, why can't you do it? And I'm like, conflict of interest. I'm going to buy them. And he was like, oh, okay, let's chat. And so we started chatting, and there was a couple options on the table. One was he was willing to do a vendor take back for us, which would have been interesting. Or the other was we could buy it at a cheaper price and just do all cash. And so the way the property was, you wouldn't be able to get a mortgage on these properties because they were as crack houses. No A or B lender would want to lend on it, and it'd be a lot of hassle to get a D lender to do, or a private hard money lender to necessarily lend on troubled properties like this. So literally partnered up with one of my money partners. He had a line of credit. We home equity line of credit on his principal residence. Borrowed $450,000 off of that to buy these 20 units. In under a year, we had 17 of them reappraised at $1 million. The other 3 reappraised at $160,000.
So walk me through that 20 unit. It's like several parcels
merged, so
right?
It's technically 2 triplexes and then a 14-unit bachelor apartment thing.
14 bachelors.
And so
ones.
I don't remember exactly, but I think when we initially acquired it, about just 2.5 years ago now, I guess, it maybe was doing gross rents of like $10,000 a month. So his average unit.
What'd you buy it for?
$450.
$450K.
Yeah.
And you're getting over $10K cash flow a month.
Or gross rents.
Gross rents.
So that's what it was doing. Now I'd have to check my sheets, and I don't actually manage this property anymore. But I think we're up to about maybe 16,500, 17,000 now in gross rents. And essentially, our expenses haven't dramatically changed. So what's happened was we've been able to really dramatically increase the cash flow on this property.
Yes.
Just through those strategic renovations, turning over the units, improving the quality of tenants, which allows us to increase the rent.
Yep.
And again, we're not fully stabilized, this building. The neighborhood's not fully stabilized, but it is gentrifying. There's developers are putting up big towers across the street from us and stuff. We've been in contact with them. So what I really loved about this deal was I just saw so many different exit strategies. Honestly, because of these 14 bachelor apartments, even back in 2016, I was thinking this would make a really cool boutique hotel. And now with the advent
has
of
that potential.
Airbnb, I think, again, it could dramatically change because what's happened is most of the other really troubled properties that surround me, they've been bought up and torn down. The last real troubled property across the street from me, it's now fully vacant and just waiting to be torn down. And there's one property beside me that's still a little bit troubled. It's going to be troubled for a while. It is what it is. But long term, 5-10 years from now, you guys, if you've seen my stuff, you know I'm a huge proponent of the Old East Village, which is like a gentrifying neighborhood. And literally, when I bought in this neighborhood, I don't think there was a single microbrewery there. Now we have 4 microbreweries, 1 distillery. We have the Western Fair Farmers Market's opened up 2 days a week now. There's just a lot of things going on in this neighborhood. So it's definitely literally this one deal, again, like we said, bought for $450 and under a year had the whole parcel reappraised for $1.1 million.
So this is your biggest deal ever that kind of catapulted you from.
Like literally, like this one deal justified me not working the last 3 years. That's how I literally look at it.
I think there's two big learning points I want to kind of pull out for the audience. And by the way, we have over 30 people on the live stream right now.
Awesome, guys.
It's growing.
Smash that like button.
Smash the like button. Engage in the content. Jump in. Ask us a question. We promise you we'll get to all the questions. Also, share this on your social medias.
Yeah.
If you like Matt McKeever, you like myself, share it somewhere. Share it on Facebook. Tag me in it. That'd be cool. Share it on Instagram. Tag me. I'll share it on my stories. But anyway, so two key learning points. One, I think Matt threw out value and took on a job where he was way overqualified, worked for basically for free, given your skills. It's almost like working for free, similar to like the mentee program that I have, people throwing out value. And then what happens is you receive value. You built social capital with this guy in a big way that, you know, you made a $1.1 million valuation in a year. So I would argue at $10,000 a month in rents, you probably bought it for a couple $100,000 discount.
Yeah.
That's the value of social capital. So that's one big takeaway. The second one is I wanted to suss out that point. He hated realtors. And it's something I've noticed when people keep asking me, Mike, how are you buying private deals? How do they just lock up like 11 deals in 2 months? It's the same thing. A lot of the people that are selling to me privately, they don't want to pay the real estate commission. And that can actually be a downfall in some situations because they don't get full market exposure.
Yeah.
Especially in a market like this one where, you know,
100%.
he probably could have listed it and got more.
Information asymmetry, right?
Yes.
More information on our side's a benefit.
Yes, and that's how we play in real estate space. It's like insider trading almost. We have that information asymmetry. The market isn't efficient, and so we arbitrage on that value.
The only difference is this is legal.
Yeah, 100% legal, and that's how we make money in real estate, plus leverage. I do, in a minute here, I saw someone jump a question about leverage there. I would love to flesh out the example, because last time I didn't have a whiteboard. I do this live stream. Someone got really confused when I explained the concept of leverage and how it affected return. I had one other follow-up question though, Matt. Someone asked a question while you were talking about that.
Just while Mike's looking for that question, in case you're wondering, like, okay, that story worked out for you, great, Matt. In this case, the guy had a property he was willing to sell under market value that you could do a value add to. But let's say he didn't have that building, then you would have just been working for minimum wage and would have got nothing from the relationship. And like, that's not true. That was probably just the juiciest thing I got from that relationship. But in addition, when he was going through the process of vetting different buyers or partners for the subdivision, I sat in on the meetings because I was his CPA. And again, he was literally just using my credentials to make him look more important, right? Like, you have a full-time CPA on your staff? And he would just be like, yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
And like people would just be like, "Oh shit!" Like,
yeah, they'd be impressed.
And
Hella
so
impressed.
again, what ended up happening was I started having meetings with these guys that it was just an immediate foot in the door, and it gave me social capital. So again, that was just one little side benefit from it. There's a whole list that I could go through, but I just don't want people to think that like, oh, it was like there was this one juicy thing, and that was the only potential opportunity I had from it. It's actually there's a ton. Same with like if someone stays in your mentorship house, like. Or mentee house. It's not that like they'll immediately be able to find the one thing. It's like, oh, Mike made me a millionaire because of this. It's gonna be like 1,000 different little connections.
It'll be over the next it'll be a year and a half from now when I have a property 150 under market and I say, hey, do you want to run point on this? Do you want to be the active partner on this deal? Or I buy another business because I'm looking at like several businesses right now to buy. I can't talk about it on anything here yet. But if I were to buy one of those businesses, for instance, and I had a mentee who was shining bright and had the skills to run said company or be a COO of that company, that person, could be 22 years old and be a COO of a company, making potentially like a 6-figure salary or something to that effect, or options, therefore equivalent. And so that's where like putting in the value day after day after day eventually pays off in a big way. And the exposure to the meetings was huge. I'm sure you sitting with developer meetings, you learned a ton, right? So even if you got no value at all, which like you had multiple points of value, there was still value in the learning. And I think a lot of people don't appreciate that fact. They don't appreciate that there's so much you can learn and the knowledge has value. So that's a huge one. 33 people on the live stream. Smash that like and share it around. Matt had a question. I found the follow-up. It was right here. Austin asked, how much were you guys bringing in net cash flow before you quit? So at the same time as 81 units.
Yeah. So
before that you had
way before.
less.
Yeah. So the student rentals, I think I had partners with them. So in general, I was cash flowing like actual cash that I could like count on consistently putting in my pocket. Probably $500 per student rental. So I had 3 of those. Then essentially I was house hacking. So my living situation let me live for free. Then my fourplex at the time, we were actually just wrapping up stabilizing it. So in that case, I think it was putting about, and again, I have a partner, so conservatively $500 a month.
How was
I
your
could
partnership?
count
Was
on.
it like a 50-50 JV
Uh,
kind
these,
of thing? Oh, right, you had.
yeah. So like it was actually a third. And again, what we ended
It's a
up
really
doing,
good point, by the way, guys, because a lot of you are watching this channel. I know you guys, like a couple of you guys who are always on the live stream have like 5, 6, 7 properties. Some of you guys don't even have partners. So you're at a, you know,
Yeah.
theoretically, you fired.
So like some
before
people
that.
could look at this as just owning one student house, right? Like that's the equivalent essentially. I had 3 1/3,
Yeah.
right?
One student house could be 1,500, right?
Yeah, 100% ownership of one student house by Fanshawe. You could easily cash flow that back in 2015, 2016.
So you had your house hacks, you're living for free with the
Yeah,
house hacking.
then-
Big proponent of house hacking and rent hacking.
Yeah, then my fourplex, maybe call it $500 a month consistently, like
That's your cut.
Like these are like real cash flows, so like this is stuff where you could go actually
Not
access,
mortgage pay down.
right? Like in theory, maybe you're actually making more, but like you need a bit of a buffer, reserve. We try and keep, usually like $2,000 to $5,000 per property, just in like a
Reserve
a
fund.
checking account for it. Yeah. So that was pretty much it. And then I was just closing on the 2 duplexes. So those 2 duplexes hadn't actually came together yet.
So you quit with $2,000 a month coming in rental income.
Yeah. And like that to me,
And it worked out.
yeah,
Obviously,
and,
you're
like,
not
literally
broke.
going from like a 6-figure salary to this was very scary.
Yes.
But it actually wasn't either, because like I literally, when I looked at my numbers, like I didn't spend $2,000 a month. Like if I was able to live for free, I was not spending $2,000 a month. I was like spending probably like $1,000 to $1,500 depending.
What did your house hack look like? Walk that through. for the
So it
audience.
essentially, I bought it in 2010. It was a really poorly run student rental, so it was a 6-bed, 2-bath. Just moved in, had some buddies move into it with me. They ended up being the guys I actually bought my first couple student rentals with. And yeah, like literally, like I guess in hindsight, I didn't even realize it, but we literally had kind of our own like mentee or mastermind house, because what it was myself, a coworker who was also a CPA and interested in real estate investing, and an electrician who was also interested in real estate investing. So the 3 of us, we were all like early 20s, and we all wanted to get into real estate, and we'd actually all been buddies since grade school, so like kindergarten, and all moved in together. The house came with someone already living there, so I assumed that tenant. So one girl was living there, and just got one more roommate. So at any given point in time, I'd have 1 to 5 roommates in the house, just depending on kind of how I wanted my lifestyle to be. I would just scale it up and down. Now, these days, looking back, I'd probably, if I was to redo it, use Airbnb, because it let me really scale up or down the lifestyle.
Block off the day.
Because like, sometimes, having like 4 to 5 roommates can cramp your style a bit. But if you could just block off a weekend, I don't see how it's impacting your life at all.
That's right. There's no excuse. I don't think there's any excuse in this day and age to, I don't think there's a good argument for working just to have a place that you don't have to share. I think it's way better to have, 4,000 extra hours, or an average person probably 3,000 extra hours in your life for having to share, maybe not even share, maybe you just live in a duplex. You don't even have to share the living space, just have to share a parking laneway or something, right? Like, and even then, sometimes people have semis where you don't even share a laneway. What's your excuse not to find, people say to me, like, I get some DMs sometimes, where like, oh, Mike, I can't do this. Like, I have a family. There's no way I could ever house hack or rent hack. And I'm like, wait, why don't we just ask, like, step back and say, how could we have a rent hack? Not, I can't, how could I? So could I find a really luxury, I have a 9-bed, 5-bath house. It's very nice. My unit's 4-bed, 3-bath. I have a nice place for my family. I have 2 kids and a wife, and I'm still running a mentee house, right? I got a business section in the back. You can find a way.
And like this, where we're living right now, I don't own this house. This is like a rent hack.
Yeah,
or
this
an
is
Airbnb
solid.
hack. So literally, this is a new build house. They're trying to sell it on the market for too much money. They want to sell it for $775,000. We're renting it out for $2,850 a month. If you run the numbers, like, we're barely covering his mortgage payment.
Yep.
And then he's got property taxes, insurance on top of that.
There's tons of these Toronto investors are losing money.
And like, again, they didn't even sign us to a 1-year lease, so we're open. So like, I can just pull the ripcord tomorrow and like walk away, and I'm just like have to give them 60 days notice if I want to be a good tenant. And like,
you're controlling an $800,000 asset for $2,700 bucks, whatever it is, a month. That's huge, guys. His mortgage would be more than that.
Exactly. And so that's what's so interesting to me, that like, yes, being a landlord's awesome under the right circumstances, and definitely invest in real estate when it makes sense. But alternatively, if it doesn't make sense to invest in real estate, it probably makes sense to try and rent hack or Airbnb hack in that case. Like, there's an opportunity with your real estate market. There just is. there inherently is an opportunity. It's just a matter of figuring out if you want to take advantage of it
Yep.
or if there's better opportunities.
Yep.
Obviously, like, we're biased because we're the real estate guys, but there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, seriously. Agreed, 100%. Austin, to answer your question, so he summarized basically he had a couple grand a month coming in and pulled the trigger in rental income. And we're nowhere near the 4% rule.
No, it was super scary. And because, like, I
How
didn't know.
close were you to like the 4% rule? Were you?
It's so hard because, like, honestly, I think so many people lie to themselves with, like, if I was to liquidate my portfolio, what does that actually look like, right? But
Yeah.
I was definitely not at $1 million in net worth at this time. So
Considerably less than that.
Yeah.
You could pull the trigger and be perfectly fine. End
Yeah.
up like, McKeever was doing very well today.
In like hindsight, in theory, what I could have done, like, it would have been $50,000 down on each one of these deals at the time of purchase. So that's about $150,000 in capital. This was about $20,000 in capital. And then this, again, was another $30,000 in capital. So I think, like, we only, like, in down payments, now obviously we'd pay down the mortgages over time. There'd been appreciation, strategic renovations, blah, blah, blah. But, like, this is like $200,000 in capital I tied up in order to create this income, right?
You could create a super lean fire real estate portfolio for a couple of $100,000.
And the real key to me is this. The average Canadian spending 30 to 40% of their income on shelter and
Yes.
utilities and stuff like that. If you can save that.
Rent hack, house hack.
Right? You're literally.
Boom. You're at like 60% of your income is only being used for living
Yeah.
expenses. Then you can trim off another 10%. You're at 50% savings rate. You're retiring in like guaranteed 17 years, probably less.
Yeah. Once you hit that 50% or higher savings rate, you're at the tipping point. Things are about to get really exciting.
I like 80%, 90%. I'm just hardcore though. To answer your question,
again,
Austin,
I think though you also get on that feedback loop, right?
Yes.
Where once you start seeing that you're literally like, let's say you're taking home whatever $4,000 a month from your job. If you literally see your checking account going up $2,000 a month, that shit's powerful. You start getting really excited. You can start really thinking about what assets you can control, what sort of things you can invest in, and what sort of passive income you can create.
100%. It opens up so many opportunities. Kyle Fitch, good to see you on. He just said, what's up, Mike and Matt? Love both of your channels.
Thanks, man.
Awesome. Good to see you on. And there's like 20 questions we're going to have to answer, but I'm going to scroll back up and find where we were at. We're going to try to try to go faster because we got like 25 questions to answer. So to answer your question, Austin, what did I have when I quit? I think I had 8 rentals, and my average was about $1,400 a month in profit. So I would have had like around $10,000 a month when I fired. I was 4% safe withdrawal rate, so I could sell my portfolio and live off dividends. I did it way too late, probably. Like you were more pulling the parachute before.
Yeah,
you
jumping before you
build the parachute. I was like, my parachute was on, I'm sitting in the plane. I'm like, I don't know, Matt. And Matt's like, get out there. You're good, man. And like, I jumped out, and it worked out really well because I waited for the 4%. But yeah, so I was kind of, I guess if I had sold all my real estate and just put it in dividends, probably been like 40, 45,000 a year, and I was spending less than that, so I figured I was pretty safe. That's like the normal 4% safe withdrawal rate.
Yeah.
Not as exciting, Austin, as obviously Matt's story. Trying to do it on a much leaner amount. Joe asks, post the essay.
Oh, the essay
riot.
I used to write to my friends and stuff.
That must have been the story you're.
Yeah. Okay. I could actually. I'll dig those up and I'll make a LinkedIn post or something out of it.
Yeah,
Thank you. That's
maybe
awesome.
toss a link on this video after.
Yeah.
This video will be there for replay. So all the people who are watching this, by the way, who are on the replay, I'd love if you jump in the comments and just say that you love Matt's story, love what we're doing here. Just share this somewhere. We love the engagement after the fact.
Absolutely.
With a lot of the loyal people. I'm also going to remove the ads from this. Lately, we've had some issues with for some reason it jumped it was such a long Wise Wealth that it put 20 ads in on automated. From YouTube did that, and we're going to remove that so that won't be an issue. Last one had no ads in at all, so I'm just going to take the monetization ads right off so you guys can watch this and click through. If there's one person watching of the 34 people right now, we're almost at 40 for a second there. So the people who jump back off, find your way back on. If any of you guys want to do timestamps in a comment, like say 00, 28 minutes and 10 seconds, we talked about this. That's super helpful. I'll throw it in the description and also in a comment. It's nice for the playback when this is an hour and a half long. People to say, oh, they talked about leverage example right here, and they can jump right into that because I think that'll be a good one for this video that I'm going to continue to reference in future videos because we got a chance at the whiteboard to explain how leverage works. I want to walk through the exact example I did last Wise Wealth with a whiteboard because it was really hard with the hand gestures, I think, for people to get the understanding of it. I guess in my head it's really easy to see the math, but I can understand how it would be complicated without a real example. I'll kind of walk through at a high level, and maybe Matt can walk through an example
Sure.
to follow up and clarify what I go through. But let's try to rapid round. So Blake says, bring back Mike and Matt on fire. The smasher
We're
pass,
doing it.
miss it so much. Okay, so we're going to definitely bring that
But
back.
we were just talking, if we look back on all our 2017 smasher passes, they were all smashes. Now,
Yeah, it was
in
literally
hindsight.
smash as much as possible.
Smash fest.
Just
is what it
smash
should have been.
fest everything. Okay. William says, first like was from me. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Where are the other 16 likes? Come on, guys. There were 16 people watching. That was at like 7:08, I guess, when William put that in there. We've now got, I don't know how many likes in this video, but we've got almost 40 people watching, which is great. As people jump off, new people jump on. So welcome to the stream. If you're just finding this link and clicking on it now, or if you have to go, that's cool too. Check the replay out. Alex, Joe says, can't read. I'll skip the question there. At what price point, market condition, would you stop buying real estate and look for alternative investments? I find many markets are starting to get silly in terms of pricing. Curious on your thoughts. So I guess the price point or market condition that we would stop buying real estate entirely.
Yeah, so for me, I don't know if I can like pinpoint an exact price point, but it's going to come down to cash flow. At the end of the day, the moment I find myself no longer cash flowing, that's when it's going to become a major concern. So as long as I think
For
the
me,
market
it's-
fundamentals are there, I've talked about it on my channel at length. I won't talk about it at length now, but essentially if you look into the data, it's very rare for rent prices to go down in like kind of broad economies. Now in really boom bust cycles like we see in Alberta or other oil economies, yes, that can happen. But if you look at like Ontario or the US as an overall average, it actually almost never happens. What we literally see is like the rent prices at most, they'll go like this kind of, like where they'll plateau, but they almost never actually drop. And so that's really powerful in my opinion because it means that if I cash flow today, even like essentially what I'm looking for is, can I cash flow at today's rent with like a 3-4% higher interest rate? If that's the case, then I trust that I can survive most market ups and downs. You know, like again, like we were talking earlier in the video, if the market goes crazy and everyone loses everything, well, screw it. We all lost everything together.
Agree. I'm on the same bandwagon. I'm going to go one step in a slightly different direction, but on the same topic as cash flow. The way I define it is ROA, your return on your asset. I look at my ROA and I look at my KD, so my cost of debt. That is the most important market condition to me to know whether I'm going to buy or not. Another way to look at this, instead of ROA, some people use ROA to include the cap rate as well as they have other terms for like the arbitrage value as well as the appreciation potential upside. All goes together to come into an ROA. One simple way is to take your cap rate and then take your cost of debt and look at the spread. So if we get to an interest rate environment where, imagine in Toronto or Vancouver, in these silly markets you're talking about in your question, where we had, say, a cap rate of 4 or 5. I hope this is showing up, by the way.
If it will.
I don't know if it will. I might rub it a little bit. So if I had I'm trying to write big so you guys can see it. If I had a cap rate, by the way, cap rate, guys, is the value of the property based trading on the net operating income effectively. So if your net operating income was basically producing you a valuation of 4 to 5, basically meaning that without any financing, it would take you like 20 years to get back your money at a 5 valuation. And your cost of debt, let's say you had to borrow money and the cheapest money you could get was 5% in a market, or we at like, people were actually talking about 4.49 5-year fix. There was chat of that. We were close to that. 3.99 was the advertised rate. That's a special at some of the banks, even recently, before the little bit of the rate hike we've had more recently. But one of the things, I like people jumping in now. People like this kind of stuff. They jump in and engage. So if you had a cost of debt of 4.49%, and by the way, that's if you can get A-lender financing. If you can't get A-lender financing and you're not flipping, you're long-term holding, and I have talked to people who long-term hold with 6 and 7% type, magenta type financing for like on a 3 or 5 year term. And like, it's cool because I got like a student rental and it makes sense for them because they're getting crazy cash flow. But people are just going crazy with their cost of debt. This is where I get nervous, guys. I've talked about this before on the channel. I'm going to talk about it again. The only way that I get nervous is when we're looking at even cap rates of 6 and people are borrowing at 5 or 6%. There is no spread. So if there's a negative spread here, guys, leverage, the example I used last week, leverage works against you, right? So your leverage amplifies the spread between your return on asset or your cap rate and your cost of debt. So if you had a negative spread here, imagine there's some flippers, this would happen in 2008, some flippers got in with some 10% financing, they didn't have any cash flow, The leverage actually amplified their negative returns. That's why they lost their shirts, because they were leveraged 5 to 1, sometimes 20 to 1 with 5% down type deals. That's where it gets really, really, for me, that's where I get really, really nervous. I, again, echo everything Matt's saying with the fundamentals in London. It's a very diverse, very strong market.
Yeah.
Rents tend to be very stable in London. Currently, I'm buying properties around a 9 to 10 cap. Pre is what I'm looking at, and my cost of debt is between 3 and 4%. So my spread is typically like 6%. The bigger your spread, the more money you make in real estate. And because I'm levered 5 to 1, 20% down, I get 5 times this return. So if I was getting a 6% spread, I have 30% return plus the return on my down payment. So that's how I'm getting 40 and 50% returns on investments because of leverage. I want to do an actual example where we walk through that. I think it might be a good time now to do that since we're talking about market conditions, and Matt can kind of clarify as I go, because I talk quick.
Beyond what kind of Mike's touching about, it's just also important that you understand your overall downside, right? So are there ways to pivot and minimize the downside? I really love having multiple exit strategies, and so that's what those flippers that got caught at 10% interest rates, they didn't have any other exit strategies. Their only exit strategy was flipping the property at a higher price. So if you find yourself in a down market as a flipper, that's really risky, where if, say, you're flipping multifamily properties, or you're borrowing a property, or some of the other investment strategies we use.
The whiteboard's it was reversed. I just got a comment.
Oh, that
so
makes
they're
sense.
seeing everything opposite.
No. The sound is coming from, like, you're coming to my right ear and you're coming to the left.
Oh,
okay.
But just write bigger on the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
And stick with the.
They're saying one person says plus they're in reverse. So I think that might be because we're streaming live that it's reversing the.
It's the sound that's.
Can you see me? Like if I write cat right now, we're gonna see if people can see the word cat, or do they see it backwards?
You're seeing one comment of 3 or 4 we're having here.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to catch. There's a lot going on. 38 people watching, which is great. Good to see all you guys on here. Welcome to the live stream. We're gonna try to sort this out. The writing is good. Okay, so it is okay. People can see it.
So yeah, it's just the sound.
It's proper. Okay. Andre says it's proper. Andrew says it's proper. Trevor says he just meant. Okay, it's just the audio. My bad. I hadn't read all the comments. I was just trying to catch up, and there was a lot going on. Now I understand. There's different people jumping in, so I thought it was out of context there. My bad. Okay, so not to lose the 40 people that are watching, let's try and walk through an example that you've all been waiting for, leverage. So I talk on this channel a lot about leverage, and that is the reason that I'm not just buying businesses all the time, why I'm buying real estate. It's a safe investment, right? There are a number of reasons why we like real estate, but you touched on it before about leverage, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So if we look at like leverage, basic leverage on a deal, we'll do a real example. Maybe Matt can do a real example. I'll do the high level concept, and you can do an actual example with a 100K property or something.
Yep.
So let's say we bought a property and it was at a 10 cap, just as an example, right? And your cost of debt was 3.49, which is the mortgage I recently got. So that's on a 5-year fix. It's a real example. In this example, my spread, my return on my cash flow, not appreciation, not arbitrage value. Let's assume that I bought this 10 cap at market value, which again, if I'm buying a 10 cap, it's probably going to sell at a 6 cap on the market. So I've obviously bought it at a discount, but let's pretend that I have it. So we're going to ignore appreciation returns, because leverage does the same thing with appreciation, and we're going to, for a minute, ignore arbitrage opportunities or value add opportunities, and just look at cash flow. So here's what leverage does to your cash flow. In a 3.49% scenario, maybe we should just do an example as we go. It might make more sense. Let's say we had a 100K property that had a 10 cap. So what does that mean? It's got 10K in operating income, right? Am I doing that math right? 10 cap means 10K in NOI, net operating income. Hopefully you guys can see that. So if you have 10K in net operating income, imagine if you had no financing costs. That's what this is no financing costs. If you were to go borrow, okay, so let's say you put 100,000 in cash as one example. Your return on your investment is 10% from cash. Right? You're getting 10,000 in profit because you have no financing cost. You just bought it in cash. So people always say to me, why don't you pay off the house and have the house in cash? That isn't as attractive to me. A 10% return it's okay, but I can go talk to a private equity hedge fund and get like 10 to 14% fairly easily if I'm a high net worth client. So that's not as attractive. Here's where real estate gets really attractive and why I can't stop buying real estate. It's gonna get really juicy for a sec here. So this 100K debt, let's say we take the 100K property, we do 80K in debt and 20K down payment.
And so that's essentially just your traditional financer.
Traditional 20% down, very common. No like creative anything, no 5% down deals. just a standard 20% down. I bought all my properties with 20% down, except for one that I had to close 30% down and then refinance. Long story. But I've never used a 5% down. I don't like the CMHC fees. You guys know my take on that. I just say borrow the money at 15% that you need for the remainder between 20 and 5, and then it would actually be cheaper for you long term. But that's another video for another time. And let's say we've got 20K down payment, 80K financing cost. I don't know what the mortgage would be on that. To kill your cash flow, maybe.
If we're going to do, I guess like
So
for cash flow,
3.49.
like
So
let's
just do
work
interest
with
cost.
income.
Yeah.
So
So
like
interest cost would be what, $3,490?
on 100, so we'd be like 2,800, right? For like on 80K of debt.
Yes,
So
roughly.
yeah, so I think we'd be about 2,800. For
So there'd
our
be
interest.
2,800, 2.8K off of your NOI going to the mortgage to pay the interest, right? So your net operating income after financing cost, and we don't use
Yeah.
financing cost and cap rate because everyone has different ways to finance the property. But if you're looking at this example, you've got 7.2K in net.
Yeah,
7.2K. I don't have a calculator on me, and I got the live stream going.
but
so.
yeah, divide by 20, right? That's the money we
Correct.
have in now.
Yeah. Instead, it's over 20 now instead of over 100,000. So your invested capital is 20,000 instead of 100. So in a leveraged example, that 100,000 in cash buys you one property in cash, or it buys you theoretically 5 properties at 20% down, right? So now you go from having 10,000. So if you buy in cash, we'll flesh it out. You have 10K in NOI, net operating income, and you have no mortgage. Your mortgage out, no mortgage payments. You're like, yay, I'm getting 10K a month. But I'm saying, take your house that you own. I had a deep, heated argument the other day with someone about the house that they own. And I was trying to make the argument that they should go and lever that house up, borrow the money out, and buy 4 more. And so if they were to follow that, hopefully you guys can see this on the board. If they were to follow that, Tyler, you let me know if it's failing, will you?
I think we fixed the audio.
Audrey is asking, focus the camera on the whiteboard. Hard to see it. They're focused on our face right now. I don't know. Maybe you can turn it or something. But if we can't, I'll just try to articulate it extra loud. So if we were to buy 5 properties, right? Net of financing costs of 2.8K, we'd have 7.2K. So it'd be 5 times 7.2K net.
So like 35, 36, right?
36,000, exactly. It'd be 36K. So you go from the same amount of capital. You guys go from having 10,000 on your 100 grand capital, or you bought 5 properties at 20% down, 20,000 each one. That is the same $100,000 you're working with. But you used mortgages of 80 grand on each of the properties. You now control 500,000 in real estate as opposed to 100,000 in real estate because you have 5 properties. You control a much larger asset base, and your net, even after paying the interest costs back to the bank for the property, is net 36K. So your return on your money is several factors higher if you run the numbers.
And also another interesting perspective, in my opinion, is a lot of people emotionally will react and be like, ooh, this is super risky because you got 5 rental properties now. But my argument would be you're actually more diversified. You now have 5 different streams of income from these rental properties, where in this property, assuming this is a single family home, one tenant, if you bought it $100,000 in cash, stops paying you rent, you're now 0 net operating income, or you're at a loss, more likely, right?
Yeah.
Whereas one tenant stops paying us and we own 5 houses, we're actually still going to make income. We're just going to make 80% of what we had, essentially.
You're actually safer with something called diversification.
Exactly.
So the more you own of something, the less of your risk, because if one property goes vacant, you're all good. People would be fearful, oh, I have mortgages to pay, so I'm worried if a property goes vacant, that's why I pay it off in cash. And if you actually really think through that argument, you'd realize that having more properties actually reduces your overall risk. The only time that leverage gets bad, I think, guys, is if I were to adjust this cost of interest like I talked about to, is there a crazy comment?
But yeah, so if the interest rate was to go up.
To go up from 3.49 to say like 8% or 9%, we're getting very, very close to almost no profit at all. So it's one of those things where, again, cost of debt, super important. If we can borrow cheaply like we have been for the last little while, and we're getting a cap rate of, say, 10, if our cap rate goes down to like 5, this is a lot less attractive, right? So that's where the interest rate environment is important in relation to the cap rate. So if we have 10% cost of debt and everything's trading at a 20 cap, like in the 80s, then you still have some spread. It can be okay. It's just our business is made on the spread, the difference between the return on the asset and the cost of the debt. a couple interesting factors I've heard people argue and might jump in the comments. I'm thinking of a couple people specifically who are loyal subscribers that might jump in the comments and say, but Mike, I invest in Vancouver or LA and we don't have any cash flow. Cash flow is zero. So what do I care about leverage? The only reason you'd care about leverage in those scenarios is if you get to a point for going from, some cash flow paid off to break even, with leverage, but have appreciation at say 5%, right? If you had 5% appreciation for 5 years, which is like something we could see, you have 25% in total appreciation, right, over 5 years. Leverage works the exact same way as I just showed you with cash flow with appreciation. So if you were to have 5 houses at 20% down, right, on the appreciation side, your 25% return is 5 to 1. So 5 to 1. That means your ROI is 125%. That's how people in Vancouver and LA are making a ton of money because their down payment, again, being 20% or something to that effect, they're basically taking their down payment, they're more than doubling it with a couple $100,000 in appreciation. So that's where leverage can be really cool on the appreciation play side and the arbitrage side. When I'm bringing you guys deals at 75 cents on the dollar and we make 25 cents on the dollar with properties we're buying right now, this is exactly an example where with leverage 5 to 1, I'm able to take your, if we make even 5%, let's just say, on the arbitrage value of the house, and we're 5 to 1 levered, like everyone's buying 20% down, then we're going to, again, have instant 25% return on your money. The BRRRR is effectively 100% ROI, a little bit more than 100% ROI. So if I can achieve a BRRRR-style deal where we buy, renovate, rent it out, and then refinance the strategy and repeat, a BRRRR deal is basically one where you added enough value that with leverage, you use leverage to make the BRRRR so successful, you get crazy, crazy returns on your investment.
And so one other thing I just want to touch upon with leverage is, I know some people that say invest in margin accounts or other things will bring up, like I can actually use leverage to buy stocks or equities or bonds.
And cheaply.
While that may be the case, I think what gets lost in translation is the apples to apples comparison. And the apples to apples comparison really falls apart to me because with real estate, I'm not investing in a REIT. I actually have direct control over this asset.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things I can do to essentially force more income from it, where I can really try and make sure that that asset is being utilized at its utmost, highest, most effective, efficient use. Where if I own just, whether it's a broad base of stocks or a single stock, I can't influence any control unless at least I'm rocking 10% ownership. And realistically, most of us watching this YouTube or participating on this YouTube live, we don't actually have the asset base to move publicly traded companies. So it's kind of a moot point in my opinion.
Yep, agree entirely. And it's just also REITs can't really arbitrage because they have so much capital to deploy. At a certain point, it's hard to, when you have that much capital to deploy, you really can't be just looking for like those unicorn deals. Yeah. There's only so many unicorn deals in London. Like I'm sure if I bought 100 properties in London, I would tap out most of the unicorn deal in that market, right? So that's, people bring it up all the time. They say, Mike, what is the point where you hit a wall where you have to basically raise your standards from buying 10 cap properties to like 8? When are you going to have to lower the bar?
Well, and the other option is you start moving out to other markets. Right?
Exactly.
You either cannibalize your existing market or you spread out.
100%. And that's why we're looking at some multifamily maybe in Windsor and some other markets that I've kind of identified in the coming months, right? Exactly the same thing. Let's do rapid fire questions because we have like 50 questions now. It's really building up. Okay. What are your favorite value add renovations, Jake asks?
So my absolute favorite is painting. There's nothing better than painting.
Yeah.
I'd challenge anyone to find a renovation better than painting. Your ROI is insane with painting.
Yeah,
otherwise, flooring. I love used kitchens, so just getting like the used boxes and a new countertop looks slick. You can paint it. Yeah. IKEA's pretty cheap these days too, though. So
I hate IKEA. I was gonna say it. I had like 2 really difficult cabinets. We went and ordered them all, and they screwed up the couple of the boxes and the doors. And we waited 2 weeks. It cost us to.
It's frustrating.
It's
wait
really
times.
Annoying.
Yeah.
Rona, and you have to build them, by the way, which takes the contractors like a day. Rona delivers them on site. The chocolate cabinets look really nice, like the gray chocolate modern ones. They come in a box ready to go. You lift them up, 4 screws in the wall. I can have a kitchen installed in 2 hours. IKEA takes days, and there's issues with shipping. I like it being brought right to my house, already assembled, and I just lift it up and screw it into the wall. So I'm a big fan of Rona. It's also 40% cheaper for the cabinets at Rona to IKEA for the exact same size cabinets. So I'm going to plug Rona. You guys have heard me plug Rona before. They don't pay me anything, so maybe they should start. The 39 people that are watching, I would love if you
And-
all smash that like button right now.
Otherwise, one other favorite strategic renovation is just adding laundry or dishwashers
Yes.
to units.
Yes.
You can massively increase. Same with like taking like a dining room or a study and turning it into a
Yes,
bedroom.
into a
is
bedroom.
massive.
In this market here, especially in this hot market,
Yeah.
I'm going like, there's a huge living room like this one right here. I'd pop a wall up and have
Yeah.
another bedroom where there's a window.
And it's
Boom.
a massive bedroom.
Yeah, it'd be a
Like,
great sized bedroom. There's 500-600
Yeah.
more in rent.
It's massive.
Which jumps the value of the property substantially. For me, when I buy property, you guys know my strategy. I don't do a ton of cosmetic reno. I tend to focus on like the bigger things, right? Like that's just been my style. I've bought properties that no one wanted, and that people overestimated the value of those renovations. So my style has been like, people think, you know, oh, this will take $100,000 to be finished, and I'll go do it for 30 or 40 and add a ton of value and got a really good discount on the purchase price. What I'm finding nowadays is those simple ones that we're going to talk at face value, like the painting. Everyone's seeing that. Everyone knows that.
It's a lot more competitive.
Yeah, so then it's hard to get a good deal on the property. I'm not afraid to take on a full kitchen, or like the floors are wonky and we'll do new supports, or you know, additions falling down, we got to fix it. Those sorts of things, people get really scared and nervous.
Yeah.
And so I don't have to compete near as hard. I can negotiate really deep discounts. And so I'm a big fan of the value add. So my favorite value add, you asked me, wow, we're like 41, 42. This is great. A lot of people are watching. It's one of those things where if I can add value in a way that no one else is adding value, right? If no one else in the market is doing this, everyone's painting, everyone can do floors. That's become now like everyone just discounts that and is like, oh, I can do that. It's easy. I can paint myself. Not everyone can take apart a house and spend 50 grand. So the barrier to entry is a lot higher, which has
Absolutely.
allowed me, like I bought a triplex for like 333 grand. It's worth 600 because, you know.
And same with kind of building upon that. If you have an interesting skill set, use
Yes.
that to your advantage. So I know guys that owned remediation businesses, and so they specialize in buying houses that are really
Asbestos or-
right,
yep.
And so
UFI.
they would focus on properties like that. Same with like if you're in pest control, maybe you focus on properties that have crazy pest infestations.
Rats,
Use-
bed bugs.
Again, information asymmetry. Whatever
Yes.
information you have that the general market doesn't,
Yep.
use that to your advantage. If you're aware of some loophole where you have rental licenses, but it doesn't count if it's a condo, like use that shit to your advantage at the end of the
Yes,
day.
100%. Alex jumped in and said, agree with Blake on his comment above. Bring back the mic and Matt on fire. So Alex is also seconding that. Definitely, we're gonna drop that pretty soon, so it's coming for sure. That comment doesn't really matter. Guys, have you thought of looking at other markets like New Brunswick? Martin asks. Martine, good to see you on. Martin, maybe I said that wrong if you're French. I think I know exactly what you're talking about there. I wonder if you're the same guy that I met when I was on my trip out in Newfoundland. I wonder if you're following me now on this live stream. That'd be cool if it was you. Have you thought of looking at other markets like New Brunswick? So I've never thought of looking at New Brunswick.
I've definitely looked at other markets. I haven't looked at New Brunswick specifically. What is interesting though, there's a lot of people that send me DMs on social media about investment properties on the East Coast. So I know like
Newfoundland was interesting. When I was there for the real estate stuff, I spent like 4 or 5 days and I went around and looked at some properties there. There is some interesting opportunities.
Again, like anything, for myself to get comfortable, I would just have to really understand the economic fundamentals of that city.
Yeah.
Do I trust that it's going to be here 20 years from now? Do I think it's a bigger, smaller, or same size city? What are the immigration trends, stuff like that?
100%.
Right now, we're really lucky. Pretty much anything in southwestern Ontario or the Golden Horseshoe, the immigration trends are insane. If you look at Stats Canada through 2040, it looks so rosy for us that even if the market otherwise doesn't want to increase, it seems like through immigration alone we'll create enough demand. So that's something I would really look for in some of those smaller markets. But like Northern Ontario, I'm constantly drawn to. So I love the idea of
Northern Ontario has
expanding.
some interesting opportunities, like the Sudbury and those towns. They're less stable, I think, from they don't have the same resiliency in their economy. Maybe they're more tied to natural resources and things. Could someone move the camera over to get Matt in the frame? I think he got bumped when we adjusted this screen. Sorry, I'm just pet peeve. I'd like to see us both in frame.
But yeah, let us know, what other markets do you think we should consider? Because I'm open.
Yeah.
My buddy Mitch just bought a house in, I think it was Cleveland or Cincinnati.
Interesting.
And he's buying one in North Carolina as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm hearing some good things too around like
Buffalo, I've heard
Niagara,
good
Buffalo
stuff,
area, all in there. There's some insane, like people are buying houses for like 80 grand. They rent for 1,600 a month.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the
They
numbers
make
on that
real
are
numbers.
insane. Like 15 cap rates.
I've also heard of people doing that out in like Maine and like rural parts of like the northeast coast, and it's super cool.
I'm just afraid of the accounting for me and like all the financing.
for sure, like the actual implications. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like if the numbers make sense, if I trust the local economy, like
Yes.
yeah, let's do it. The same way, like you don't have to come and invest in London or Windsor or Toronto just because we're from here. It's just that's the market we grew up in, so that's the market we grew with.
That's right. It just so happens that I have a competitive edge in London. I could develop that edge in other cities too, right? And then if you could develop that edge, then you'd have theoretically a great something to a business around that effectively, or you could buy some properties
and so, like,
around that.
just while he's looking for the next question, if you're looking at investing in the East Coast, one thing that comes to mind, maybe there's some interesting Airbnb plays. I think we're going to see more and more Canadians want to travel within Canada. One, just because it's simpler and easier, but two, we got a massive country here to explore, and I think that like the East Coast and like that just seems to be a spot I hear a lot more people considering traveling to. So there could be an interesting play there.
Yeah, I think there is a huge immigration that you touched on. That's probably the number one driver in Canada for real estate prices. Like the number one indicator, I think, is immigration.
Like definitely, it's very strong in Ontario. So
yeah, and definitely in Ontario. Like if, for instance, we took in 10,000 new residents, what would that do to our market, right? Which is what we're taking in. They're forecasting between like 5 and 10,000.
And that just hits the rent market. It hits the housing
which
prices.
drives
it
up
hits everything.
Which drives up NOI, which drives up house prices. So it just happens, right? Supply and demand at its best. Okay, got the next question here. To use OPM in JVs, don't you need a solid track record, or to pursue the OPM method in general that you're talking about, Matt? In the beginning, we talked about that. I would expect you need a solid investment record.
So I think in general, a solid investment record is going to be really helpful. If you got an amazing deal, legitimate, you have an amazing deal right now, DM me on Instagram or Adam Martin, who works for me, and we'll partner. Like, if the deal's amazing, and I think Mike's the same way. At the end of the day, it's numbers, right? So if you find that crazy deal, you have it tied up on paper. Now, are you going to be capable of finding the crazy deal and executing on the crazy deal if you have no experience? That's kind of a two-edged sword there. So like, or maybe that's a chicken and the egg scenario. Yeah. But if you can find the amazing deals, yes, you can attract money. The longer you're a real estate investor and the more you get into real estate investing, you learn that money's actually one of the easier parts of the equation. It's the deal that's the hardest part, in my opinion. Money, money, money.
No, I was going to say management, but I think I'm going to call it like systems or skills. I think I'm going to go with skills. I think it's going to be money, deal, skills. Very similar to the money, people, deal.
Yeah.
I don't like the people as much. I like skills or like management or value add in some way, right? I think that the money, a lot of people look at the money as the hardest thing to have. That's why I put it at the top of the pyramid. The deal, a lot of people don't look at the value in the deal, but the deal is huge. If you have, like Matt said, if you have the deal, you have all of the control, especially in this market. Maybe in a cooler market where there's a lot of negotiation going on, deals are not as valuable. In this market, if you have a property under market value, like DM us, we will be all over that. I would be happy to buy that deal up. More likely than not, I would buy it off you. I just put like $10,000 in your pocket. But if you want to partner, that's something too.
Well, again, though, that's the thing. Like, and a lot of investors will just try and buy it off of you. So if you really want to become the active partner, you're going to have to pitch it to them. And so if you've never done a deal before, start pitching deals to people and create like a systematized process. And because very rarely, unless you have a screaming deal, will someone say yes on your first proposal. Even for myself, even to this day, like it often takes a while to build up that relationship and comfort before someone wants to hand over hundreds of thousands of dollars to you in trust to go execute on a deal.
I've done the same thing. Like I'm raising like millions right now for right way management, right, in the form of mostly equity. But when I'm bringing a deal to someone, I still to this day, I think the other day I had a property that I know is like, it was almost $100,000 on our market. And I had a couple of investors that I ran it by them. I thought I was giving them like this rare candy. I'm like, guys, like I've got this for you. I was keeping it just for a couple of like off the shelf kind of product for the best investors. And I gave it to one of my better investors. And they came back like, oh, I need to see comps. I need this and that. I need to walk. It's like, whoa. If you're asking all these questions, I don't think you're appreciating the fact that this is such a good deal. And they're like, oh, I have to think about it. Just the fact that like I'm bringing $100,000 in value right now, and it's well over 1% rule. How is someone not jumping on that? Like they don't realize the value that's there. Even today, even like, because I have 50 properties and still people question, is it a deal? So just because, what was the point I was trying to make? How do you convince someone or articulate that there is a deal there?
I think it's building up that relationship, right? I definitely know what Mike's talking about there, where even to this day, recently there's a a 7-unit deal we're kind of working on, and I sent it to one of my money partners, and at this point in time, he was the guy that bought the very first student rental property with me, Dave.
Good track record.
And so, like, yeah, we bought 3 student rental properties together. We now have another 2 triplexes together in a single family home. So I guess
with the money you created, probably.
Yeah. So we've just been trying to recycle his money essentially, and that's what I try and do with a lot of my money partners. And it's a pitch you can maybe make to your money partners too, depending on your market. But I'm like, hey, give me this $200 or $300 or $400,000, and I'm going to burr it. I'm going to keep recycling it, and I'm going to like treat every dollar like it's my own, because this is going to help me build my portfolio just like it's going to help you build your portfolio. So you want to make sure you're really aligning your interest with your money partner's interest.
Yes.
So you really need them to understand that, like, this is an important deal to you. In fact, if you have no other deals, this is the most important deal you've ever done. You're going to take it extremely seriously. You're going to cross every T, dot every single I,
yes.
and you're going to make it run perfectly. So that can actually be used as an advantage in a way. But yeah, literally this 7-unit, I sent it to Dave, and like, I was really sloppy on my analysis with it. I'm just like, good deal, let's buy. And Dave's like, I kind of like to see some more numbers. And I was like, this is a crazy deal, Dave. Okay, I'll give you some more numbers.
I'm the same way. And yeah,
right?
like, I should have, responded back.
But like, it's at the end of the day, like, even with the track record we have, if you can't verbalize,
I love that market throw. That was so good.
If you can't verbalize why it's a good deal, then you're going to constantly struggle with getting the money part of the equation solved.
Yeah.
And if you only have the deal and you don't have the skills, I think it's going to be a challenge to attract that money. But when you got the 2 of these, like, the money comes all day long.
Yeah. This is like what I call the skills or the management. 2 M's, you could have it, MMD if you want. The management side, like, this could be, if the property needs a lot of renovation, if you're a contractor, you add a ton of value. You could say, hey, I've got a property under market. I got it for you. It's over here.
I didn't realize the lid wasn't on. I was like, oh no, it does. Okay.
Nice dramatic throw. I love that. So if you had the management, for instance, let's say you already had a few properties of your own. You've been in the property management game, working for someone else. Maybe you don't even have your first property yet. You might have expertise, right? Like, I'm thinking like an Adam or someone who's been managing properties, who had an expertise, right? He made the ask as an example. He says, look, like, I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to renovate this property. All I need is some capital. I've got a deal here. I'm going to take care of everything. He sold the narrative around all of the value that he can bring from a renovation perspective, from a management perspective. Because at the end of the day, good assets in the wrong hands, like even if you had these 2, if you had unlimited money and unlimited access to deals, if you don't know how to get the renovations done affordably, or you don't know how to put good tenants in, I've watched this happen. I know guys who bought properties here in London for like 80, 90 grand, made no money because they just did bad renovations, they put bad tenants in, that ravaged them for like a year of no rent payment. They didn't do good management practice. And a good property, even a 1% rule, even a 2% rule property with bad tenants, bad management, bad renovation. I've watched them cut beams in houses and have houses sink. It's like, that was bad management.
Yeah.
So sometimes even really smart guys who have lots of money, who are really good at getting good deals, they fail on this component, and that's where the value add is. So if I was going to lend money as someone looking to lend money out, I would make sure that they had this down even more than I want the deal. I want that. If someone has the deal though and they came to me and I could offer this value, there might be a really good joint venture opportunity there, right? And then the money could come. But yeah, they say if you have 2 of the 3, the third one will come automatically. Like, if you literally have these 2 on point, the money just comes. It's the reason I have a wait list of like 10 investors right now that are begging for this, because we've got this, right? And that's what it is. You could do the exact same thing in your market and brand yourself as the person who's got this on lockdown, or the person who's got this on lockdown. Throw value out there, and you'll receive value back. Yeah,
and then otherwise, well, Mike's looking for the next question. Just again, if you're brand new to the
you
game,
guys are still all
you're
on
going
here.
to have to really present your information well on the deal.
Yes.
We can afford to get a little bit sloppier with our analysis because we've built up that street cred, we've built up that history of success. But if you don't have that, it's just really important that you get all your presentation, your pro forma, have it just on point.
Take my tool, guys. It's in the link on my 25 and free. I have an old version of the spreadsheet I use. It literally says buy or no buy. You just literally type in the rents and the price, and it'll adjust all the expenses for you, give you an ROI, give you a cap rate. You could take something like that, clean it up a little bit more, add some more to it. My current version is way better than that old version, but it's free to download on my website. That's an example of an Excel template right now. It's basically a cash flow and an income statement in one. So, and it has a valuation, has opportunity for value add, etc. You can play in the template. It's free for you guys. Just use that, send that to an investor with, again, maybe a page or 2 write up, explaining your plan. Maybe you could even, I think it'd be really cute if you put in like a picture of yourself like doing renovations or something, or like maybe a past project, some pictures. It'd be a nice way to liven up the pitch, I think, in a lot of ways. Because if you're Austin, the one, I think it was Austin that asked the question, if you're the one that's pitching this to the money partner, they have to believe in you. So it's whatever you have to do to convey confidence. Even if you are an expert contractor, and you come across as like, hey, I'm Joe, I'm a contractor, you know, I don't know, I think I can renovate this. I don't know for how much, but I'm hands-on. Versus coming in and saying, hey, like I've renovated six, 7 properties. My day job is renovations. I know this. From a cost perspective, I think it'll cost this, but maybe you could provide some insight. I've done a bit of research. Even if you don't know, you can at least say, I've done some research. Here's what I think. What do you think? Here's some pictures. That's a lot better, I think, than coming in and saying, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't, like the Dragons, I love Dragons Den and Shark Tank. I'm big into it right now and watch like all the episodes with the mentees at night. And by the way, Jonas, I saw you on there. Good to see you on. I see the boys jumping on. I don't see Michael. Michael, why aren't you on here? I need to see you in the comments. I'm just teasing. I'm sure he's watching. So the big thing on those shows, right? You guys see the guys go in there, and there are people with great business ideas, and it's not about the idea; it's about the execution. They say that again and again. Like you've heard Kevin O'Leary, a lot of the big sharks say that. It's not about the idea; it's about the execution.
Yeah.
You could have a good idea and bad execution, and it'll fail. If you notice, the sharks tend to invest in good executors over good ideas. I've seen them invest in mediocre ideas that have really good execution behind them. And so this is like the execution. Maybe we should just call this E for execution. Like your ability to execute your deal and your money. So maybe that's where it's evolved to, is execution. And I think execution in any business is the most important. If you can prove to the investor, prove to the people who have money that you're a pro at execution, doesn't matter what business you're bringing me. You could call me right now and bring me shipping like toys on Amazon or something, or like you have a factory, you ship toys out. If you're a good executor and you've got the business, the money will come. Like the money can be found. And I honestly do believe that. So Austin, to answer your question, that's sort of what I would pivot. I would pivot on those 3 points and find a way to add value.
Yeah, and then otherwise, again, if you have no experience, why not team up and get mentored by someone that does?
Yes.
That's literally what Adam Martin did with myself, and he was able to use that and pivot and attracted $80,000 in hard money loan just through his Instagram stories, because he kind of had that halo effect because he was on my channel so often, he was in our circle so often. People got to know him a lot faster. You lent him your credibility. Exactly.
100% right. So Brandon asks, if there's 2 people on a mortgage, do both people have to be on the Heloc, or can one spouse be on the loan? I think you mean on the property. 2 people on the property? Or 2 people on the mortgage?
But so like if 2 people are on the mortgage, definitely 2 people are going to be on the Heloc.
Whatever the title looks like on the property should also then match will match whatever the mortgage is registered. And a Heloc is just like a mortgage, so it'd be registered in the exact same fashion.
Yep.
So that was an easy, quick one.
We did one fast.
There you go. And given that the person can invest with Mike, Matt, or John, why would they invest with someone who has little experience? Okay, so they followed up with
my first thought is like maybe they don't know about the 3 of us. So that's one start. Maybe there's a way you incentivize them more. So right now, I can't speak for Mike, but if you're going JV with me, you're probably only going to get 50% as my money partner. Whereas maybe you, at your very first deal, you're willing to give up 75% of the deal to your money partner to incentivize them to choose you.
At a certain price, everything becomes attractive, right? Like there's literally no house I won't buy at the right price.
And so like I think naturally a lot of us default into thinking a joint venture is 50-50, but you can manipulate that however you want, right? It's just a negotiation on the terms. So just like negotiating on a private deal, if you don't like the price, play around with the terms, right? If you like the price, then whatever.
You can come up with. I've seen creative opportunities all around. I've seen even joint ventures where people do like no cash flow and just 50% of upside, and so the one investor, the money partner, could get 100% of all the cash flow, and someone else gets 50%. I've seen that model done. It's a lot in the bigger cities where people do that, where there isn't as much cash flow. But imagine if you gave that up. If you said to them, "Look, this is bringing $2,000 a month in profit. I will give you that $2,000 a month just to have the 50% upside and to have the opportunity to work with you and hustle and learn." That's a really intriguing. If someone came to me for that, I'd probably say yes to that if the deal was decent. So that's an opportunity where you think just because maybe you don't have the experience doesn't mean you can't manipulate the equation in a way that works for you. So just basically ask for less.
Yeah. If you get a no because they're like, I'm just going to go.
40 people tuning in, watching. Like, what?
If they're like, no, I'm just going to invest with Mike, be like, okay, well, is there anything, at what term would you consider myself as a partner instead of Mike? and they're like, oh, like I would, like just listen to their feedback and keep building upon different iterative processes or pitches to potential money partners. But the other thing is, how many money partners are you guys actually meeting? So how many people are you going out and actually meeting, handshaking, building up relationships with, and how many people are you telling on your social media about what you're up to? If no one knows what you're doing, if all you're doing is being a keyboard jockey and like you're listening to all the bigger pockets, you're watching all their videos, smashing the like button, you've on the notification squad, that's cool. But if no one else outside of your bedroom knows what you're up to, it's going to be extremely hard to attract money on that first deal. It just is.
Yeah, if no one knows about you in the market at all, not sold me on social media. And like, I'm on it now. Like a year ago, I was not even doing it. Like well, a little over a year and a half ago, I wasn't doing Instagram at all, right? And any of that. And you're a pioneer there with YouTube. Like 2 years now, you've been doing it, and like huge credit for this guy because he's been out there. I remember it, like with even like the blurriest videos, trying his best by himself, just making it work. And now look at the quality, you know, where things have come, right? And it's amazing. I can't echo it enough. If you don't have Instagram, get on Instagram and show up. If I'm going to invest money in someone and I can see them 6 times a day on their story and I can see where they are and what they're doing, that gives me a lot of trust.
It builds relationships, honestly. Like, think about it. How if you go out to an in-person networking event, that happens once a month, that meetup group. So, like, how many times does it take before you build up a real relationship with them? You can supplement that with social media. But my number one pitch on why you guys should consider social media is it exists. Whether you want to embrace it or not, it exists. And so either you're going to control the narrative about who you are, what you're about, and what you're doing on social media, or someone else is going to control it. And that's really scary, thinking about you could just hand that over to someone else when you could actually be in control. The same reason we like investing in real estate is because of the control it grants us. Get control of your social media as well. Boom. I should sell social media, apparently. I felt like that was a good sales pitch.
That was a good sales pitch. And you got 42 people still watching, hanging on every word. Emma just jumped in and said, recognize those badass chairs.
What's up, Emma?
I got to scroll back up and get some of these questions figured. Whoa. I think we're going to have to go on rapid fire here because we're not going to be able to catch up.
Do it.
They keep coming and we're not getting them fast enough. Okay, so I'm going to...
I might jump on here too.
I was in the attic today and saw there was some frost on the roof boards. Looks like it's just above the bathroom access hatch. There are no fans or vents in them. Is that related to another question? No. I was in the attic today and saw there was frost on the roof boards. Looked like that might not necessarily be an issue if it's like there's a blanket of insulation between your
so hard to
attic
tell,
hatch.
right? Yeah. I'm just going to get on here.
It could be moisture escaping from your fan vent. Very, very possible. Run I-86, how long notice to evict a tenant in Canada? Can you evict without cause? Can you quickly, I guess I can answer that. Typically, it depends on the offense.
With cause or without, sorry?
So can you evict without a cause?
Without a cause?
No.
Yeah, so it's extremely difficult to evict without a cause. You're going to need something.
The cause has to be renovations, get a building permit to renovate the property. Your family member's moving in, you're moving in.
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of catalyst. They're being bad, not paying rent.
You've sold the property.
You've sold the property. Some event or catalyst. Now, without cause, you could create a cause fairly easily. You could say, I want to renovate the unit. There are reasons, you can come up with causes really quick. You could sell the property to a friend. There are ways you could basically architect a scenario. At the end of the day, if you want to get rid of a tenant, keys for cash.
Yeah,
honestly, pay them money
and
get them out.
I think you're better off trying to negotiate with them and just have a conversation. Most people are reasonable people. Most people don't want to live in your house if you don't want them to live there. So just find a win-win solution with them. And that starts with a conversation and just understand their why. Personally, for myself, often I've found alternative solutions. So you're a landlord, you know a lot of landlords. If they're not a terrible tenant, but you just want to renovate and get up to market rents, reach out to your network and find another alternative for them.
Yeah, 100%. To speak on time to eviction, it depends on the offense, but I'm going through some right now at the landlord-tenant board. We got 3 or 4 open files, and one of them, the tenant hasn't paid rent in 5 months, and we're finally getting eviction order, and they're trying to appeal it to get it basically a payment plan of some sort. Very common. You can buy 6 months, I would say, you can stop paying your rent in 6 months. You can usually buy in Canada. If
you know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing. The landlord-tenant board, if they could hire some more adjudicators, we could get some meetings a lot sooner than waiting 2 months for a trial. It's really, really annoying. Pet peeve of mine, I'm just going to finish the rant there. It is hard. Property management is the hardest thing in real estate.
And evictions in Ontario, Canada are very hard.
Yeah.
I would avoid them at all costs if possible. Because literally, if it's going to come down to a real eviction, It's so painful paying the sheriff. I forget now. Is it 360?
350,
Okay.
50 something. Yeah,
350. Like, it's painful to pay that on top of not getting your rent and stuff. Find a way to negotiate. Get a N9 is what Mike's often
I'm a big
promoting,
proponent
right?
of the N9 over the N11. N9 is them giving you notice. N11 I once had at the tribunal. They claimed they signed that under duress, and they retracted their mutual agreement to leave. And apparently the N11 didn't hold up. It was a mutual agreement, but it apparently circumstances changed. I get the N11 and the N9 signed.
I think that's best.
Give me your N11, N9 is them giving me notice that they want to leave.
Yeah.
And so then I have the right, if I go and rent it out to someone else, I go to the board and say, they told me they're leaving, I rent it to someone else, I have another lease in hand, and I'm good to go. That will always hold up. They can never retract that N9 notice. It says right on it that that's them giving their 100% they're leaving. But I get the N11 anyway, just to be safe. When I do my keys for cash, they sign N9 and N11. It's the most common way to evict a tenant. In most cases, though, when you buy a property, you can just work with them and be like, hey, 90 days to leave. We're going to renovate the property. Most people are reasonable and be like, you know what, that's cool, find a new place. Or, you know, maybe you can help me find a new place, so I'll help them find a new place.
Yeah, most people, if you treat them like people, it turns out they're people.
Right? Yeah. So don't treat them like, don't come in like a robot and be like, out.
Right,
You know, you come in and you have a conversation with them, sit at their dinner table, you know, bring them a coffee. That's been my strategy, and I think like that's the
100%.
nice strategy. Like
Callan's
just the nice guy.
And
does
you
that
want to sleep
strategy.
at night too,
Yeah, so that one works really, really well. Big fan of that one. Rapid fire. What are your thoughts on collateral charge mortgages? Brandon asks.
So collateral charge mortgage, as in, what exactly are we doing?
I don't know. He just said
Like,
collateral
I've heard
charge
the
mortgages.
term, but I literally don't know. Like, so is that where
my understanding is there's basically where you take. Okay, maybe Brandon can clarify and jump in the comments. I don't want to misspeak for him, but
because I've heard that, and I'm actually.
can someone jump in the
blank.
comments and
Well,
explain?
I'm going to Google it quick.
Yeah,
but
okay.
What's a collateral charge mortgage? Two ways a lender can. Oh, so that's where they're lending above what you actually borrowed at, right? Okay, sorry.
I was thinking like a collateral mortgage would be like.
So
when
a
someone
collateral
registered-
charge, on the other hand, can only be registered or discharged, not transferred from your lender. Oh, what the heck? There are two ways a lender.
So I'm thinking of one mortgage in specific where I had a $360,000 mortgage. They registered up to $500, and then when I went for refinance, it was already registered. So it saved me some legal. I think that's what they're talking about. Basically, I think my guess was going to be that.
So
it was when that
so it's
happens.
when you want to borrow more money later without having to pay the lawyer.
So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we've done it before in the past,
Yeah.
especially when we're doing big renovations. And
Good
we know we're going
brokers,
to refinance.
good brokers will. Yeah, like
Yeah.
almost all the good brokers that I
So
work with will register
The only thing
like
to be aware
extra
of,
100
like
grand.
if you haven't got around to upping it yet, I think that does impact when, like, let's say like you were mid-renovation on 3 collaterals and you haven't refinanced yet, and then you went to borrow for a new property. I think the banks can actually see the collateral mortgage rights, so they see the total amount registered.
Interesting.
So I think that you might, like, if you got a lot of projects on the go, just make sure you understand how to weave through those scenarios, but that's getting pretty advanced.
That was a good question actually. Fairly
It's
advanced.
been a while since I heard that term, so I need a refresher.
The times where I've used it, where it's been really valuable, has been in a BRRRR situation. So typically you'd have to take the mortgage off and re-register, but if they register it properly, it'll save you about $700 in legal costs to do it that way. And if you're planning to BRRRR anyway, definitely a good idea to do the collateral charge. You can hear the nasty scenarios where sometimes lenders will do that and put huge collateral charge mortgages on in like second and thirds, way over the value.
Okay.
I don't know. Lately now in Canada, though, all the big banks are putting no second or third mortgages in the terms of the mortgage now. And apparently they're even writing instruction to the lawyer now to notify them of a second or third. And if they...
I didn't know about that part.
And so if the lawyer's worth their salt, they don't want to get sued, so they will notify if they find out the title has been...
And ideally, your lawyer would just give you a heads up first.
Yeah, and let you know that like I have to let them know. But what that does is block it. So it requires permission to have the second or third. So then you're stuck with it first.
Technically, you almost always had to get permission. I think if you dug deep, it's just that it was like a don't ask, don't tell policy, and I think it's slowly becoming more regimented. But the great thing is, John Kepler was here for our one mastermind weekend on private deals and creative financing, and he was saying the credit unions will actively work with you to help you get your second mortgage.
Nice.
I've
had really good success. I have no income and high net worth, and I'm still getting high net worth mortgages through credit unions who can, by the way, they're not registered by the same body as the big 5 banks are. They're federally and provincially regulated. And so the stress testing rules don't apply to credit unions. Libro, Meridian, stress test rules did not apply.
Interesting.
So there's been no changes.
Makes it easier, yeah.
It's the same as the Wild West. People are like, oh, Mike, I can't do what you did in 2016, 2017 about these properties. I'm like, wait, so Meridian, Libro don't exist?
The only thing to be aware of, usually I found with credit unions, they'll usually want to do 75% loan to value versus 80.
I'm
Not
still
a
getting
big
80,
deal,
but
oh, okay,
yeah.
great.
Yeah, I'm still getting 80, 20% down. Personally, maybe that's because my net worth is larger,
Gotcha.
but
Yeah.
they're still doing.
Mm-hmm.
Libro specifically was one that liked 25.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about anyone negatively. Obviously, we may end up having a partnership or need a mortgage from Libro. So if you're Libro watching this, I'll take your money.
Yeah.
Don't hate on me. Okay, so how do you find your first deal with no network? George asks.
My first suggestion would be go build a network,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, you're either going to have to spend, if you're in a hot market, like in London, Ontario, I'm going to project a little bit, you're either going to have to spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising to find private deals, or you're just going to need to build a network.
Yep.
It's way cheaper to build a network, and long term, that network is going to pay off way more than that initial marketing campaign.
Yes, I 100% agree.
So just go to the local networking events.
Yes.
If they're not there, do what we did and start some.
A lot of my private deals guys come from my network. Like probably 20 of them in the last year have come from people I know that have reached out.
Well, like,
they know I
hooked you
closed.
up with
Yeah,
some, right?
yeah, exactly. Matt's hooked me up. Like a lot of people in the network have hooked me up. Dylan, like
and
even Adam hooked me up.
Dylan and Kellen have hooked me up with deals. Sean Allen has.
Sean has hooked me up
It goes
too.
both ways, right? Like we're constantly trading deals because we all have slightly different strategies.
And so what works for one guy might not work for the other. I actually have a private deal right now in London, Ontario. I'm going to, there's 35 people watching. I'm just going to say it. I got a private deal right now that someone could have.
The one we're talking about?
Yeah, the one we're talking about. 330,000 we got under contract, I think. And so plus whatever the wholesale fee is. I got a partner on that one who's working really hard to wholesale stuff. If you want details on that, it is a big house, two-story, two-car garage. Could be made into an 8-bedroom property built in like the early 90s. So it's a newer type built house. It is a 6-minute drive to Fanshawe College, a 15-minute bus ride based on like when I looked on the maps. So it's relatively close. You can walk there in 20-something-ish minutes. Yeah. So hit me up for that if you want. It's in rough condition, needs renovation, obviously. I have an appraisal report from an actual bank in 2017, and we bought it at appraised value in 2017. So I think the market has appreciated in London since 2017 by 20-something%, like 15% a year. So it is considerably, theoretically, under market value if you look at some of the comps, and there is potential to be a 1% rule property. Yeah. It isn't really going to work, I don't think, it might work for a couple of my investors, so I don't know. I might take it down. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do. But one of the investors might reach out and say, like, let's close on it.
This is a perfect example of why you need a network. I don't know how often I've just started a conversation with people, and all of a sudden they bring up an opportunity. Yeah. And they weren't coming into that to tell me about the opportunity. It literally just naturally came up. Earlier today, I don't want to mention it because I might want the deal. Sure. But there's that 50-unit thing that another realtor introduced both of us to. Yeah. The way it came up to me originally was, like, we were just chatting, and I was like, he was like, oh, man, like, you looking for anything else? I was like, yeah, big multifamily. He's like, yeah, who isn't? And I'm like, man, like, seriously, I want it. And I started talking about a different property I had in the same neighborhood. And he was like, oh, shit, like, I actually know about this 50-unit deal. He's like, are you interested? And I was like, where the hell? Yeah. And, like, I guarantee it was me talking to him that then sparked his memory, and he called everyone else. I was like, oh, shit, anyone else
I can't tell you how many times, how many times I put an Instagram post out, and, like, 10 people have reached out and be like, what do you, like, when I was in Windsor the other day, they're like, what are you doing in Windsor? I'm like, oh, I'm looking at multifamily. Oh, I didn't know you were into multifamily. Or even like they knew I was into multifamily, but forgot and saw the post and were like, oh yeah, Mike likes multifamily. I forgot about that. I'm going to pitch him some deals. Or like, oh, Mike likes student rentals. I knew that, but I forgot about Mike. And he was in the bottom of my buyers list and comes back up. By the way, if you're on my investor list, which like a lot of you guys watching are, sending me frequent messages saying you have a couple $100,000 in capital and you're hungry for another deal, pre-approved your mortgage, that sort of stuff reminds me that you're hungry for a deal. And not that I'm going to give priority to someone that's poking me more often, but if you're recent in my mind and there's like 5 people on that list and you're hungriest for the deal, I'm going to give it to the hungriest person that is also qualified.
Well, just like the idea of social media, it's those touches, right? It's those multiple touches. It just
100%.
Yeah,
100%
familiarity breeds trust.
Okay, that on average, how much hassle or communication do you have for your average renter per month or per year? So for, I think the average tenant, like the thing is you'll have nothing for a long time.
And it depends on the type of properties. Right now, I outsource my shit, so none of my tenants got my cell phone number, so they never hassle me. They hassle my property managers. It's awesome. I recommend doing it.
A few of my tenants have my number because, a long story short, but 85% of my tenants don't have my number, thank God. But yeah, so I guess how much time should it take for you to manage your own property? I heard a stat once, and I tried to calculate my own hours when I had like 10 properties. There was between, on average, 1 hour per week per property. But that depends on the size of the property, like duplex, triplex.
That sounds
That's
about
what
right.
I've heard. So
Honestly, I would argue that for most people, it's whatever time you have available.
Yeah.
It absorbs to take up that property management. When we owned that first student rental, we were there every weekend, tweaking it, updating it, doing small things. None of that shit impacted our ROI, whatever. It was just busy work. But a lot of landlords, when they first start doing it, they keep themselves busy with busy work. It's your only investment. You care a lot about it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But you get better, you get more systematized, and you're able to really scale back your efforts.
yes, exactly right. So is it, and like people keep jumping on in the frugal video, like, oh, you're rent real estate income, right? That's not passive. And like, they're right. It does take like 1 to 2 hours. Depends if you have a property that's very like derelict or like neglected. Those properties tend to have more issues, I find, because they have the lower class tenant in them than my like my A rentals that I fixed up nice. I don't hear from my tenants for like 8 months. They pay the rent automatically. They never call me on anything because their property is mint and fixed up. But those buildings where I have the rougher tenants, I'm fighting to collect rent every month because they don't like the building, and then they don't take care of the building because it's in bad shape. So I just like to fix my units up really nice. The answer is it depends. It depends on the type of building, the size, the number of units, all of that stuff at the end of the day.
So one thing I'm going to jump in here because I forgot about, and we're like an hour and a half into this live stream. He was talking about Windsor earlier. If you guys are interested in Windsor, Ontario, or investing in Windsor, we're hosting a weekend conference next weekend, March 16th, Win City OREC. You can find it at wincityorec.com. It's also on my Teachable store, all kinds of stuff. But essentially, anyone you've seen on my YouTube channel that does stuff in Windsor, they'll be there. A lot of other characters from my YouTube channel will be there as well. Some speakers from last year's OREC. Stefan Arnio is going to be there. There's going to be a whole cast, so love to see you guys out there. DM me on Instagram or any of my team if you're having a hard time finding your ticket. We'll hook you up.
I wish that I could be there. I really do. I wanted to be there. I reached out, but I had a family
Mike
thing.
will be at our main OREC event.
Yeah,
so
at
April
OREC in
27th,
London.
28th. That's our big flagship, the 2-day event. You were there last year. It was amazing. Our real estate conferences are unlike anyone else's conference. Like, we really focus on, the networking, because that's where we get the most value. So that's how I design my events, is around the networking. So we really pride ourselves on that.
Yeah, there's a lot of practical, tactical stuff too, that some takeaways I like from OREC. So definitely get your ticket for that if you haven't yet. Okay, so we answered that question. What are each of your goals for the number of units in the next 5 years?
So I used to have a lot of goals oriented around the number of units.
You're more social media focused now.
Well, and so like I still want to grow my portfolio and stuff. So essentially, I think in 2016 I did 25 units. In 2017 I did 25 units. In 2018, I forget, but I didn't do a lot, and I actually sold a couple properties. So I maybe only netted a couple units on the year. Because I was focused on the social media, because I was focused on the event business. We do a lot of...
It's paid off though, man. Like, how many subscribers are you at now these days?
Yeah, we're narrowing in on 30,000. Hungarian Experiment is going to beat me there first. If you guys haven't subbed to Hungarian Experiment, I'm sure he's been in the comment section the entire video. But
I love the tongue.
Go throw him a sub. But yeah, he's like my full-time social media cameraman, whatever you want to call it. So I don't really measure based off of units anymore. So
maybe it's subscribers that you're going after. Is it
I want
a different metric?
Hit 6 figures this year in subscribers. That's a big goal that we're definitely focused on. But yeah, I definitely 5 years from now, I still want to have probably another 100 to 200 more units. Ideally, that's in a corporation. I probably don't even own 50% of that corporation. Like,
you have active managers in place. You're more passive.
So like, I want to get like super passive. We're actually like setting up a corporation to do borrowing and lending and stuff like that.
Interesting stuff there.
So like, again, like I want to eventually start becoming the bank and start helping other investors facilitate getting into their first property. It's been so much fun with Adam Martin. If you guys don't know who Adam is, check him out on my channel. But it's one of the most rewarding things. And I know that like a year from now, Mike's going to have the exact same experience with your mentees. Like, you're just going to look back and you're just going to be like, dude, this was the best thing ever.
Yes.
And it's so addictive, honestly.
It's so addictive. There's so much reward. Even on like YouTube, I'm getting such reward from the comments.
Because like they see everything through new, fresh eyes. So like Adam's excited to spend a weekend painting his first property and like putting in, 24-hour days, where I'm like, been there, done that, cool back then, but no more.
Yeah. The fresh blood, having the fresh blood of the mentees, having I have 3 people living full-time plus way. So I have 4 people basically living. living and breathing business, and I've got usually 3 to 4 business meetings a day. So like today we had a couple people come in the boardroom. We consistently have people in the house.
Yeah.
This house is full
It's
of
a
energy.
hub.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The energy, like
Same.
you experience
That's
it here.
what we're doing
You're
here,
bringing
yeah.
people here. That energy, same as you. I'll have days where I'm really burnt out because I've, we got like 150 units now, and I've done a couple hundred units now. All the turnover, all the painting, it's tiring. Like it is tiring. But when I get jazzed up when I'm sitting down with like some of the mentees and I get the energy to even come out and go out and even sometimes do stuff with them, right? So that energy is huge, like so huge. 100% will echo that.
But so
for
you got
myself,
a
number of
unit goal?
units.
Yeah. So the
I
100
think-
deals this year was kind of the high hope?
Yeah, so 100 deals this year would be 35 million roughly in assets. So my target is 100 million in the next year following that. So the next 18 to 24 months, I'd like to have 100 million assets under management. And I wouldn't have full ownership of that. Maybe I'd have like a quarter to 50% or some ownership of that. Units wise, 1,000 would be kind of where we're tracking towards. I'm working aggressively towards that. I'd like to get to a point where we had 50 staff. So that's sort of like my goal is to get to 50 staff right now.
And
people
so
working
I
in
just
the
kind of
team.
want to like frame this in perspective for people. So it's awesome to have big lofty goals
Yeah.
and
So
units and
totally,
stuff, but
no one
like,
else is like,
the real focus for everyone should not be on like trying to get the absolute highest score in money or net worth. Get yourself to lean fire.
yes.
The moment you're free, take a beat, take a moment, take a month, take 6 months, whatever length you need. Just decompress, look around, figure out what's important to you, and if growing that empire still is, double down, 10x it, absolutely. But if it's not, don't feel guilty either if you don't want to grind 24/7. It's just, I don't know, it's something that our personalities obviously lend towards, so it's something that we're just going to lean into now that we have more time to do so.
It's so hard when people call, like people keep calling through social media and saying, Mike, I have a business, I want you to buy, or I want you to do this with me. And it's like, it's hard for me. I'm just a yes guy. I've always been that type that like, I'll jump in and figure out how to do it later. And that's always just been the type of guy that I am. And so my nature is such that like, I try to stay retired and I just couldn't. Maybe someday that'll change for me. Maybe I'll have an outlook change. Like when I sold my 11 properties off, I did that because I believed I could take $1 million in capital out and put that to better work. So my $1 million in capital is only on a select few properties that appreciated extremely well. My cash flow on those properties that I sold, I was strategic about which ones I sold. If I went and invested that even like 13 or 14% or recycle it into more properties, which is what I did in businesses. At that time, I got a way better return on my capital. So I look at a real estate portfolio the same as I do a stock portfolio. And I never hold anything forever. That's just not my strategy. I rebalance. So if there's a bunch of equity sitting in a property and I can't refinance it out because the bank said no, which is what happened in those 11 properties. They said no, I had no job at the time. I just sold them to get access to the capital and then redeployed it in a more efficient manner. Because 100% paid off real estate at market cap rate of 6 in London, right? Which is what some of my properties were selling at, 6 to 8. Then what you have is basically a 6% return. So it made more sense if I was like 60% paid off in this property at current market value. It made a lot of sense actually. The numbers actually support the narrative of selling, which is crazy. People think like that's crazy. You went and bought a bunch more properties, but I did it smartly. I reallocated the capital. I rebalanced my portfolio, so I was never heavy in one property, and I spread that out into more properties. So that's sort of why my story went kind of how it is. You guys know you've been following along the journey the whole time. But let's try to blitz some more questions right here because there's a bunch more we got to get, and I'm running out of time. My daughter's bath time. I got to try to make it to do bedtime with her. Okay, I'm scrolling way up.
Otherwise, hit that subscribe button if you're new to this channel.
Yeah, hit that
Smash that
subscribe
like button.
and the notification bell, guys, or you're
Yeah.
not going to know when I drop more videos. There's, I don't know, 500 or 1,000 of you guys who might check this out on the replay. Same thing, 100%. I'd love to see you in the comments. Just engage with me. Say something like watching, enjoyed. Send a question in, and Matt will check out. Hopefully he'll come and check out the video after a while and answer any more questions that jump on in the comments.
100%.
Okay, so we did this question. I'm trying to find our spot here. Sup, how you doing? Jonas, good to see your comment there. How do you find your deal with the network was where we left off, right? So, no, there, okay. Are there any investments that I or we can put our money into for 10 to 15 years and withdraw before retirement ages? CEB 203 asked. Are there any investments that we can put money into for 10 or 15 years and withdraw before retirement ages? There are a lot of different investment products you could put your money into and withdraw in retirement. Like there are a ton of scenarios you could buy, like
in
public securities or like
you could buy any asset
Yeah,
class
anything,
realistically
really.
for 10 to 15 years. 10 to 15 years is a pretty decent time horizon in the big
good time
scheme of
horizon,
things. So
yeah.
it's not like you're really going to be focused on trying to time the market,
Yeah.
which is great in that situation.
Yeah, so volatility, if your time horizon is like 15 years, volatility doesn't matter. It matters about where you're going to be long term, right? So you look at average returns overall. I think in a leverage scenario where you're leveraging to buy businesses or leveraging to buy real estate, you get extremely good returns over a 10 or 15 year period because of that leverage compounding your money. But if you want to be really passive, there's a lot more questions we'd have to ask, right, to find out what would work.
But yeah, let's say one common question I guess we get in real estate is like people want to somehow invest in real estate, but they don't want to be a landlord. Hard money lending. That might be an interesting option.
Definitely.
Again, you just need to make sure that you're comfortable with the risk profile, blah, 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 that you're secured appropriately.
Yep.
You have a lawyer.
There are tons of
draw it
wealthy
up.
people who need money. Like,
Yeah.
there are millionaires I know that need money to close on properties because they're not cash rich, and so
Absolutely,
they have good
yeah.
good assets. Your money
A lot of the people
fairly
in our
safe.
network,
Yeah.
honestly, have huge net worths, but they actually can't access a lot of it easily. So.
And so it can make sense. You could park your money, get like a 10%,
Easily,
or
yeah.
higher return, depending if you want to be secured against
Yep,
the property or
exactly.
not. Unsecured, you could do 15% plus. Austin, for single family homes that can fit the Burr model, is cash on cash return a more important metric than cap rate? Are cap rates even relevant to single family since they are valued by comps, not income?
Yeah, it's a good question.
It is a good question, a great question. So cash on cash return versus cap rate. I think it basically just the financing is the difference between, and like,
Yeah, pretty much.
depending how you
Plus
structured your
your
financing.
ability to get your cash out, right? Because like with a Burr, we're able to get our cash on cash sometimes to almost be infinity, right? If
Right.
it's a pure Burr where we're pulling out all
if you
of
had
our.
no capital in the project,
Yeah.
then any dollars you make are infinity return. Yeah, that's huge.
So for me personally, when I initially started out as a real estate investor, my focus was on the velocity of my money. So my cash on cash was really important.
Yeah.
And realistically, it's even less about the cash on cash and was just about how far could I stretch that cash into how many assets or how big of an asset pool could I control. That's what I was focused on at the start. I'm not saying that's right, but I think that for a lot of young investors, that's going to make sense.
I think so too. I think it's a good question. The second part of the question, are cap rates even relevant to single family houses? Aren't they just valued by comps? There are three approaches. There's the cost-based approach to appraisal, and they do that in almost every appraisal. There's the comparable analysis, and then there's the net operating or the operating income, NOI, approach to appraisal. So there's three approaches. Most
Realistically,
times,
with single
comparable
family,
analysis is the number
it's
one.
almost, at least based on my experience, it's almost exclusively going to be comparable based with a single family home.
I've seen direct cost approach work for some new builds. Sometimes they use
Oh,
that
okay,
with,
like a brand,
with
sure.
comps.
Yep, that would make
Or
sense.
like unique properties that they can't find a direct comp for. They'll use cost-based approach. So what did it cost to build it? And then what is the square footage of the property and current build cost? That's one way I've seen single-family houses done, but that's on the higher end of
But
single-family.
Unless
usually.
you're selling a portfolio of single family, I don't think anyone's going to look at the cap rate personally.
Right. It's interesting though, the student rentals are trading on cap rate right now. A lot of them.
They may
single
trade,
family.
they won't get appraised, I don't think, at that rate.
Fair.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of investors are buying them based on cap
Yep,
rate,
100%.
and that's justifying the value. But then appraisers are just using comp.
Yeah, so like it's still kind of
it is the sad
comp-driven.
reality of.
Yeah,
of
it's a
everything right now.
frustration, to be
Yeah.
honest, as an
I
investor.
wish they would take income in, and I wish they'd
Yeah.
be more intelligent about how they appraise property. To be honest with you.
I wish it was more situational.
Yeah. Yeah. More factors taken into consideration than a cookie cutter.
Yeah.
By cap rate, I mean NOI or market value, not purchase price. Okay, so Austin clarified the original question there. I think it's the same thing,
Yep.
tends to hold.
Yeah.
Okay, good to see you on. Kyle, saw your question there. Basil, threeplexes, says, Matt, in the house.
What's up?
There you go. Juan says, thanks a lot for sharing all this with us. I just found your YouTube channels yesterday,
Oh,
and I'm
cool,
starting
man.
to dream again.
That's
So
awesome.
you found both me and Matt at the same time? Yes, you were digging about real
perfect.
estate and found us
Yeah.
both. That's awesome. That's really cool. Joe says, yes, that's the one. I don't know. Maybe it's related to a question we were talking. Thank you. I look forward to finding my first deal. God bless you both. Then Zena says, yeah, Matt McKeever. So he's really excited to
Nice.
see you on.
Love it.
Mike says, so much knowledge for being so young. So, yeah.
It's crazy, man. The internet's just opened up information. Like 100 years ago, this would be impossible.
No. At 19, me buying my own property, I've been like, what? No, I grew up poor, so I would have stayed poor.
Yep.
The internet has
100%.
changed all of that.
Yeah, it allows us to break out of the
Yeah.
patterns that maybe like society or our families would have set us up for otherwise, which is
Exactly
amazing.
right.
You get to be the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and with the internet, you can choose guys like us, or you can choose Grant Cardone or Ty Lopez or Gary Vee or whoever you want to be the person that you
Or Matt
emulate,
McKeever.
right?
Or
Yeah.
Mike Rosehart, right? 100%. Guys, I'm curious if you guys diversify outside of real estate. What's your stock and bond holdings and businesses
Yeah,
you
so
invest in?
initially, when I originally started investing, yes, and then in the middle, no, and then yes again. So like I was diversifying at the start, then went really hard on real estate, then started diversifying again.
Do you currently hold a lot outside of real estate, or?
Yeah, it depends on what you count, right? Does my event business, does my
Right.
YouTube business,
Courses.
does my social media, does all that count as real estate, or is that not? I don't think it is real estate, so I would count that as separate. We were talking about there's a software business I'm involved with now. So, and also like I've just been doing like private equity placements in some companies and stuff. So, yeah, I
Private equity placements in companies, what's that all about?
Yeah, got in on some like I think it was B level funding.
Nice.
So
you were buying some
shares.
passive share in the company.
Yeah.
Very
and
cool.
so essentially, again, right now my rule is I don't use Matt McKeever's money to invest in real estate. So that pretty much is forcing me to diversify into other income streams. And I think that that's good for me because I have a very like, I suck at moderation, guys. If you watch my YouTube channel, you know I've talked about it. I'm an all or nothing person. And so it's really difficult for me to moderately invest in real estate because I just overextend myself. And I'll just be like, I can get another line of credit.
Yeah.
I can like
Yeah.
figure this shit out. So that's me personally. How about
Yeah.
you, Mike?
So for me, my portfolio has been like stocks in the beginning. Then I dove into real estate, less and less in stocks, more and more in real estate, to the point where I was like 98% in real estate at one point.
Yeah, in that middle point, I probably was close to.
Yeah, like pretty much everything I had was in there except for a little bit in my TFSA. And then from
Please
there.
don't let that catch on.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ignore that. And then where was I after that? So I sold a bunch of real estate off, had a huge cash position, went and invested in some loans. I am invested in a couple of businesses. I do have a stock portfolio now.
If you had to guess percentage-wise.
Well, it's confusing, right? Because like Right Way Management now is a 7-figure business based on current like valuation. And I technically didn't put any money into buying real estate. I'm in the real estate industry, but I have a business in the real estate industry.
True.
So it's kind of interesting, I guess.
Like a lot of things, it depends.
I still have like 7 figures in real estate.
But percentage-wise, like I guess like right now, even though I consider myself more diversified, I'm probably still realistic. And the market's appreciated and stuff, which kind of actually like hurts me because like I should look more
It makes your
diversified than I
real
am.
estate way heavier.
But so like even with the crazy appreciation, I'm probably still 10% out of real estate. The other 90% is. If we hadn't had the crazy appreciation, maybe that would look more like a 20-80, but it's what it is.
I'm at a similar ratio.
Yeah.
I maybe have, I've got maybe 75-25. And it depends if you include Right Way as a business,
and
then it's like 50-50 or less.
And before cryptocurrency tanked, obviously you had all your money in crypto, so he would have been diversified. But
You guys know I hate crypto. Like I do not believe in crypto at all, zero. It's not a business, no cash flow. It's not even a good use of. The only hope is to sell it to someone else for more than you bought it for.
hashtag triggered.
Yeah, seriously, he knows I get triggered about this. I wrote a blog post though when at the time that Bitcoin was at 21,000 and everyone was obsessed with it, and like there was no idea, no one knew if it was going to 100,000 or what was going to happen, and like the market was extremely bullish. I wrote an article that said Bitcoin would be around 4,000 to 5,000, and I mean it kind of followed exactly what I said, 6 months later. So maybe I was onto something.
And what analysis did you use to determine that?
Oh, you can look at the whole article. You can read all the.
Was there real analysis?
There was some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like that's the thing. Most
it
people
looked a
I
lot-
find just pull numbers out their ass.
Yeah,
Like,
it looked a lot like the fundamentals behind Triple M's article mixed with, like you remember Mr. Ryan Mustache wrote an article on it. I had a very similar philosophy that he had, mixed with like 2 other guys that I followed, 2 other analysts that I followed in the space. To be honest with you, like most of the things that I know just come from articles that I read of other people's. And so I basically wrote a blog post summarizing like the 4
I was gonna
favorite
say, like,
articles.
it's pretty rare that we're doing primary research.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
pretty much I just shared the opinions. I agreed with like 4 analysts in the space
Gotcha.
and kind of combined their analysis, and they were totally bang on right. And I guess at the time I should have just shorted. because I would have made a lot of money, right? If I was that confident, I should have shorted it.
I'd stick to what you're good at.
Yeah, right? Like real estate's something I have an edge in. So good to see you both on in the same video again. The knowledge is overwhelming. Thanks, Jason.
Awesome.
Appreciate that. Kyle says, Mike, could you explain how you got your insurance costs down under $100? Kyle, so so on some of my properties, I have some duplexes that have like $50 a month for insurance cost. And that's mostly because of a few factors. One, I have a $5,000 deductible. So if anything happens, I have to put $5,000 out. Two, I have a lot of properties and like vehicle, and I have multiple coverages, and I also have like small amount of life insurance for my daughter.
Do you go through a broker or a farm mutual or what?
No, I just go through cooperators, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But I guess they're like a
mutual.
mutual.
I think, yeah. Because my suggestion was going to be, I found if you can build a
brokerage.
relationship with actually a farm mutual, you can often get off on a great footing with them. Farm mutuals usually won't touch student rentals, but outside of that, we're consistently able to for a $200,000 property, I think we'd be looking at $700-800, right? Like for a $200,000 duplex.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what we'd be looking at. So.
Pretty standard, yeah, exactly.
The key is get a few prices. Like the people that I've seen get terrible prices have been, I don't know if I can get in trouble, but really big brand name companies that just don't care. Like they don't want to deal with rental properties. They're literally just trying to trace your principal residence and your car insurance, and they're maybe going to try and sell you life insurance. Those companies,
they'll
big
upsell
companies,
you on protections too.
If you're familiar with their brand, it's probably a bad idea to use them for insurance, honestly, in my opinion. Because often you're just dealing with a salesman rather than someone that actually knows insurance.
Here's a pro tip. I got life insurance, the smallest policy possible. Cost me $250 a year for the policy, and it builds cash value. So in 5 years, I get all the money back. I have this small whole life policy, and it dropped my car and my house insurance by getting a triple bundle. It dropped everything by $4,000. So
wow.
the $200 policy that I got and for my daughter for $30,000 or something that she can actually use when she goes to school, worth $8,000 in cash value she can sell for education. That one policy saved me $4,000 or $5,000 because when you get the triple bundle, they can do some really good discounts on all the rental properties. And so for me, that was one angle. People are like, oh, you buy more insurance to get a better deal? Yeah, you might ask your broker to buy more coverage and get overall, that policy was more than free. So just ask.
And one other suggestion I would just have on insurance is if you hold a lot of the properties personally, consider getting an umbrella insurance. That's what I have here in Canada.
A $5 million umbrella.
Yeah. So I think I'm just at a $2 million, I thought, but yeah. And it's a bit of money at first, but then each additional property, it's a token amount. Where
I'd be interested to explore the umbrella thing because I don't have that currently, but I have heard really good things about that from the broker channels.
Because I think if I'm not mistaken, it maybe cost me $500 or $600 the first time, but then each property after that's $50.
A month.
So
or
a year
total. Oh, that's cheap.
A year per property.
Wow. That's a great idea. Get a $5 or $10 million liability. You'd be completely covered in case anything ever happened.
Yeah, at least in Canada, we're not as too happy.
I actually would be down to check that out. I got such good deals on insurance. I haven't had the need, but I should spend time optimizing on that front. You could also just decline all of those coverages they automatically sign you up for. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
TD automatically signs you up for earthquake, flood, sub pump, backflow prevent, all these random events that can happen, hurricanes, and it's how often we get a hurricane in London, Ontario, and how often am I going to make a claim even if we did and have some shingles blow off? It just wouldn't. So
well, and the thing is, I've owned real estate for 9 years now, some of my properties, and if you were to figure out the timeline, it's hundreds of years of having each rental, whatever.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
I understand.
And I've done no claims. You know what I mean?
I've never made an insurance claim ever. And I've got hundreds of units.
Right.
And I've had basements flood, and I was afraid of the cost going up. I don't believe in insurance at all. I use it because the mortgage guy requires me to have that. The mortgage states on it that you need to have fire insurance. So I have the very basic insurance. I don't insure rent. A lot of people put in these massive rent insurances.
I don't either.
Just because my deductible is so high, I can understand where they would do that.
Yeah, I understand why they do
I've
it,
had
but
people
again, we're so hands-on and control freaks that it's going to make more sense for us to essentially self-insure.
100%. Trevor says, hey, Mike and Matt. Good to see you on, Trevor. Zenith says, I'm a full-time student. I'm wondering if it's possible to get into the market with a 20% down payment and no full-time job, or is it better to wait until I'm finished post-secondary entirely? Thanks, guys, for your comments.
Yeah.
What do you think? You stabbed that one.
So if you had 20% down, like you can do it. I think it's just going to be a matter of finding the right deal and the right opportunity.
No full-time job though, hard to get financing.
Yeah, so like you're obviously going to be looking outside the traditional lenders. So you're either
lenders,
unless
C
you're going
lenders.
to attract a money partner, right? What a lot of people do when they're students, they'll try and reach out to a family member, right, and try and get them to be like
Uncle Harry is a JV partner.
they can qualify for the mortgage. Maybe you have a separate contract on the side explaining exactly who's responsible for what and what sort of divvy there's going to be there. But beyond that, the other option is like private or like vendor take-back mortgages, right? So if you could find that,
Yep.
again, they're not unicorns, but it's going to take a lot of effort and time to find those deals. My personal thoughts are find a mentor, start working with them if you can, and build a relationship. Network like crazy right now, and if the right opportunity comes, pull the trigger. Why not buy it now? But make sure you're buying a good deal. The one thing I'd hate to see with like young people that are still going to university and stuff, buying like an okay deal because they're desperate to get into the real estate market, and then a great job opportunity comes up across the country, and now they're faced with like, oh, they feel tethered because of this one property. And that's the one reason I kind of recommend a lot of people don't buy their principal residence right away unless they're going to house hack and get to live for free, is like there's actually a lot of overhead costs. So if you see yourself selling
see that.
like if you're just going to buy an okay deal because you want to get your feet wet, and then you're going to end up selling it in 2 years when you move back home or move to a new job in like a higher income area, it maybe doesn't make sense. So, but otherwise, go do it.
Yeah,
That's my
I mean,
thoughts.
just to play like the other side of it, I did buy a house in 19, so I bought a house while I was in post-secondary, just after my second year of university. I did that, didn't buy the smartest property. Like I almost followed exactly to a T what Matt just described, like not buying the best deal possible. I did add some value to it, so I did okay. But again, I sold it 3 years later for $5,000 more than I bought it for. So for 3 years, I had almost no appreciation at all, which means I really was stupid on the buy. I house hacked the hell out of it, so I made a lot of cash flow during the time I lived in it, so no regrets at all. I lived for free the whole time, and I had some good mortgage pay down over that time as well. So I learned a ton about construction. I think I'm of two
And so
minds
if
on
you're
that.
going to view the first property as just tuition and you're not going to expect significant returns, I think that's a great opportunity. It's just as long as you're managing expectations.
Exactly. It did hold me in London. I got some good job opportunities, making 30-40% more in Toronto and other markets. I stayed in London, took a lesser job because I believed that I could build a real estate portfolio here. It did hold me down, but I'm actually really happy that it did in this market. I kind of plan to be here long term, and it's worked out really well for me that I stayed. So we know like timing the market versus time in the market. The saying is like the old adage is true. I think that basically the sooner you get into the market, the better off you should be theoretically.
Yeah.
So don't try to time the market and say like, oh, in 2 years it might be a better time to buy. Go ahead and pull the trigger now. If you've been looking at like 50 properties, there's so many people on my channel that jump in and be like, oh, I've been looking at like 20 houses. I can't buy my first one because I haven't found the right deal. Get in there and buy something. Buying something is better, I think, than if you're looking at 50 properties, buy the best of the 50 or the best of the 20. You're probably not going to be making a mistake if you've seen 50 properties. You know roughly what's out there in the market. You're not going to likely be making a mistake.
If you're looking at them right.
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at them with the right lens, obviously, try to do some research, find out like how to analyze a property. What does cash flow look like in your market? But if you're buying smart, at least somewhat smart, I think it's better to get in to a deal
just
than not
buy
get in.
with multiple exits, especially if you're young. Multiple exit strategies.
Yes.
Please do that.
Yes, multiple exits is huge. Every deal I go into, I
So
have
like
multiple
just
plays.
like because my one fear is that someone that's brand new to investing, that's very young, they're either going to force a deal, which means you're going to lie to yourself about it being a deal. So you're going to buy that 5-bedroom that's got 2 illegal bedrooms in the basement, right, or whatever, and like then if you're one step away from the city shutting you down, all of a sudden you're losing money every month. Just make sure it's a good deal. Like
if you're owner occupied, you should be fine. Just don't let them in.
but again, that's not a great exit strategy because
No.
when you go to sell, you're counting on a greater fool, right?
Of course. I always have chalked up your first deal to like cost of education.
Yeah, and if you're going to view as tuition, great. And I think in that case, it's actually very hard to lose money most of the time.
Especially if you're house hacking. If you're buying a property that can house hack right now, I don't think you can really go wrong. Especially if you got like 3 years left of school.
Especially if wherever you live, they allow Airbnb. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be very difficult
True.
to go wrong. But
Yeah, true.
you definitely still can.
Yeah, 100%
Like, don't
true.
go buy that 1-bedroom condo for $500,000.
This is where we have the issues with the screen. We're so far behind. We're like an hour and a half behind on questions. Hopefully we can just blitz these really quick. I might even skip a couple here. Do you have a black marker? No, we did that. No. Okay, ARV. Is the 1% rule calculated on home price or the home price plus rental costs? Connor asks. Can you just bang that one up quick?
Yeah, so I personally focus on if I'm burning a property, 1% after I burn it. That's what I want.
I try to look for the same thing.
Yeah.
Typically. I've seen people use it both ways. I don't know what the typical
Yeah,
thing
and
is,
in general, like if I'm doing 1% or slightly above 1%, I'm doing utilities included. It's still an okay deal. If it's 1% plus utilities, even better deal.
Exactly. Yeah, if you can get 1% rule plus utilities, that's even better.
Yeah.
I look for inclusive. So plus utilities, I look for like 0.8
Yeah, agree.
typically. So let's skip that. Yeah, 1% rule in the ARV. What percentage of your money comes from real estate and what percentage comes from YouTube? Blessin asks.
So if you're curious, right now I'm making about $2,000 a month off of YouTube.
Woo!
I pay $3,000 a month to my cameraman.
Oh, that's like, I just had some passive income right there. Cool.
So, do you know how many calories the Hungarian experiment eats in a day, guys? It's ridiculous. Have you seen him? All he's ever doing is running around doing exercise on his YouTube channel. I need to feed this guy.
I mean, to be fair, you have the event stuff too.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a lot of other. He's
I was
got
having
a lot
fun.
of income sources. He's doing very well. Like it's not like Matt's losing money. You're doing well.
Yeah, we get by.
I think you're doing good.
Yeah.
And then myself, I don't make much, like a couple $100.
Essentially, it works out to a penny a view. So every time you're watching my channel, you're giving me a penny. Thank you. Every time you don't watch it, you're not giving me a penny, and that's one less calorie Peter can eat. Just let that sink in.
I wish I was getting. I think I'm getting less than a penny a view.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I maybe need to up my channel quality or something. I need more of like valuable subscribers. What am I doing wrong, guys?
You need those 20-second ad breaks in every.
Just the video's just
Yeah.
yellow. The whole bar at the bottom's just yellow. What percentage of your? Oh wait, we did that one. How do you guys feel about additions and building extra rooms to make things work? Depends on the city, I think. I'm just saying so quick. Depends on your city. Depends on cost per square foot. In Vancouver, places like that, makes a lot of sense to
But
build.
if you can repurpose existing square footage into a
better.
bedroom, great idea.
Yeah.
Very low cost and
Like, I would
very
literally,
easy.
In like Toronto or Vancouver or New York or LA, I would underpin foundations even.
Yep.
The extra square footage, it's worth it. In London, it's not
100%,
worth it
yeah.
in my opinion.
Agree.
To underpin. So it depends on the value per square footage, whether you put additions on or not, and build costs in your area. So market price per square foot retail on residential versus the cost to build in your area. There's some places where you can build super cheap in the
Yeah.
US. Where like
Oh, crazy
Florida,
cheap.
it's like $5 an
Well,
hour.
yeah, where they're not digging foundations and shit. Yeah, that's so
Like, the build
easy.
cost is
Stick
super
frame.
cheap. Have you guys done a house raise? Okay, when you add a couple of feet to the headroom in the basement. Okay, you're talking about, I think, you're talking about underpinning.
Or jacking the house.
Or jacking the
So I haven't, but John from City Developments has jacked an entire house before. If you get the right people, it's surprisingly not that expensive apparently, but you really need the connections.
Right. Interesting. And jacking versus underpinning,
Yeah,
digging down.
depends on the situation,
Exactly.
right?
Atlantic Canada, come invest with us. Someone says, do all of your deals come from wholesalers? Connor asks, do you need a wholesaler to get good deals? How do you find all of these wholesalers?
So about at least 75% of my deals are private now. So those are either deals we're actively soliciting ourselves or other wholesalers are hooking us up with.
Yeah,
You?
me too. Most of my deals.
When I start,
I bought one MLS deal all year so far, and we're in.
oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
in,
Yeah.
a quarter way through.
So
almost.
like, but 2 years and earlier ago, I was getting probably 75% of my deals on the MLS. So.
Yeah. Maybe it's just our strategies change. I think it's also a signal of our current market in London,
Yep,
Ontario.
100%.
3-4 years ago, I could go back and forth on negotiation for days, weeks on properties, and I could kick the can like 4 weeks later when someone's a bit more desperate and really negotiate. Today, nothing sits in the market more than like 10 days, 15 days max, and that's because they have holding periods before
Yeah.
they'll accept offers. So yeah, it just depends on the market and finding, I guess, how do you find wholesalers? Network.
Yes.
We keep saying that. It's true. William says to consider Detroit.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, actively
Detroit used to be
considering
like
Detroit.
$1,000 for a house during the
Yeah,
recession.
and there's some interesting, like Detroit's a big city, especially if you're including the suburbs, right? So there's a lot of opportunities, I think,
Yeah.
there.
Radies Rajakulam says,
What's up,
guys?
Radis?
Keep crushing. Good to see you. Radis, I don't think I said that right.
We never said his name right for the first couple months, don't worry.
My bad. Sorry about that. I've been following you. You got like a cool channel, a couple hundred
Yeah.
subscribers. You can check them out, guys.
Yeah,
Juan
definitely. Go
says-
throw him a sub.
Yeah, go check them out. Windsor, Ontario, right? Is like
No, so he's based out of Pickering. So we actually were
sorry, my
just
bad.
hanging out with him and Ryan Carr the other day shooting videos on, Ryan's got like a 253 square foot tiny house in Oshawa. Oshawa's first tiny house. So.
cool. Yeah, I
yeah.
have seen the social on that. It's really cool stuff. Check that out too. I love tiny houses. By the way.
Yeah.
Mine got shut down. What would be the best?
Tiny
advice?
shed.
Yeah, that's right. It is a tiny house. Come on.
It is.
Without a bathroom.
No, it's cool.
Without a bathroom.
I like it.
Had a loft. It was cool. What would be your best advice for someone who wants to find a first deal? We kind of already covered a little bit of this
Yeah,
ground, but
my general rule of thumb, honestly, if you're brand new and you got some time, look at a lot of properties and analyze them. Actually run the numbers, run the spreadsheets, send them to either money partners or send them to potential future partners. Even if they're like, hey, I'm not going to be ready to buy a property for 2 years. Be like, cool, I just want to keep you in the loop on the shit I'm looking at.
oh shit, my mic's been dead for a while. Oops.
Oh.
Mic's dead. Mic battery dead. Mike, your mic's off. Can't hear you. Oops. I don't know what time it is now.
All right.
How long have I been doing this for?
Well,
I screwed up.
it's at least like 8:40 something, so.
It's 9.
Oh, it's 9 something.
Yeah, I gotta go home and do bath time.
All right.
Can we just like rapid fire a couple
Yep.
questions here and then just end this?
Let's do it.
I'm just gonna pick the best ones here. Massachusetts, cool place to invest. Badass. Hello. Good to see you on Little Pump. Hopefully you guys can still hear me.
We can hook you up with a little snooze.
Hey, Andrew. What part of Atlantic Canada are you investing in? Justin asks. Halifax. Michael, good to see you on. I'm interested in chatting more. Cool. Sounds good. You guys got each other on Facebook. We just made a connection right here on live. 2 people
Networking.
investing in the same market. They're networking virtually. There you go. We didn't have that even 20 years ago.
No.
It's all Matt. Absolutely put yourself out there. YouTube, Instagram, meetups. Hello, Mike and Matt. Mike, I commented on my circumstance on one of your YouTube videos last night. I'm the one saving $2K a month. Thunderball 1957. Oh, I remember your comment. It was a really good one, actually. What would be the best place to invest some of my money? Yeah, you were chatting about that. It was really inspirational, the frugality aspect and how you've been able to kind of transform things and giving the perspective. You've been doing this for a long time and turned on a dime. I love that you found the channel and been embracing frugality. That was a great comment. I actually want to share that one on my Instagram. I'm going to screenshot that long comment and share it. But places to invest your money, there's tons of places. Like if you wanted to reach out and buy some properties here in London, I would happily give you like 80% of the cash flow roughly, and some of the upside can bring you deals. That's an option too. You could also just do some like private money lending. I know lots of people who want to borrow money, so that's an easy passive option. Both my options are passive. You don't have to do a thing in both those scenarios. So it depends on.
Oh, you flipped your screen.
I flipped my screen, guys, and it's locked.
I think if you go back and back, it'll. Yeah.
Oh,
It'll
whoa.
sort of. Yeah. No.
Oh, now my battery's gonna die, of course. It's locked now the other way. Come on. All right, I'm just gonna read it this way. I don't even care. Well, there's so many. Okay. I love that there's so many, by the way, guys. I'm not upset. I love that you guys are asking questions. I'm just extremely tired.
Worst case scenario, if you have to go, we can always jump in the comment section afterwards.
Yeah,
and
exactly,
respond.
and hit these up. Would you share an updated version of your deal analysis? Trevor, sure. I'll upload that for free for you guys. You guys got it. Nice, quick Google. Brandon got it, so that was our question
Nice.
there. Antonio has given us the thumbs up. Love it. How hard is it to find a property that cash flows in the London market on the MLS? Very difficult. The cash flows well, I would say.
Yeah,
on
the
MLS.
cash flows well. You can find something that's going to get you a tiny bit of cash flow, but
Investors
you want
are
better.
Yeah,
Find
sniping
better.
it up. There is some on MLS, but again, you got to be really quick and keen to
Yeah.
get them. The one that I snapped up was a really quick property, about 160.
And usually there's going to be a big value add or
We had to
something
add some
going on.
value to make
Yeah.
it to make the play really worth it. But hey guys, is it better to have all the mortgages through traditional banks first, or go through a broker to get the best deal? I think brokers can offer the best deals, but definitely go with A lender banks before you reach out to B, especially if you have solid
Yeah.
income. Keith specifically, you're one of the investors, so I know we'll get your financing. I'll coach you through the financing. Matt, you're killing it these days, Keith says, which is awesome.
Thanks, man.
Andrew's thumbs up. Andrew Howe. Andrew says, Keith, the broker, will get you some traditional bank mortgages, but wasting time, blah, blah, blah. They're going to hit your credit. So she's saying apply to a lot of different places. A broker doesn't cost you anything for residential mortgages. Doesn't hurt to try. Yeah, I agree. Those are all good points. Hi, Mr. Rosehart. I think you recently earned your real estate license. Is your license active? If so, does being under a broker affect your real estate buying for renting? Do brokers take a cut? Currently, my license is in limbo. Rico has been investigating things, and I guess social media is not Rico's best friend, and turns out conflict of interest is also, they think there might be a conflict of interest, and so we're currently addressing those concerns. I'm not in it to be a full-time realtor. I was in it for access to the data, and also it helped my business in a lot of ways. And also I think having just access to the MLS whenever I want it to buy properties just saved me some commission. And all of my investors were expecting me to help facilitate the sales of all of these properties. And so if I were to eventually become a real estate agent and then partner with someone in that transaction, I could control the sale and ensure it gets top market price, which that's how I get paid. So that's why it was in my best interest to do that. And I had some other really cool ideas of what I could do with the license. That's why I got it and finished all the courses with that. You don't necessarily need to do that. I waited a long time to do it. You don't need it. DW says, love you guys. Thanks. Appreciate that so much. I believe this is strictly a real estate discussion. I'll ask the gentleman about investing at a later date. Oh, okay, you're asking about stock picks when he was asking. Okay, I understand. Okay. That was 838. Hey, Mike, can we hack our insurance costs below $100 a month like you have? Yes.
Yep, we did that.
100% you can. Yes, 100%. Oh, they're talking about health and dental insurance as well as just come up now. How can you get that as well in a lower
So if you're Canadian, in Ontario, it's called Trillium. So if you're like lower income and stuff, you can get like your dental, or not your dental, sorry, your prescription drugs covered. If you live in Canada, it's going to work out. Just actually
Matt
reach
will jump
out.
in the comments and explain in this video.
Yeah,
his
I can
strategy.
only talk to Ontario, but like just reach out to your doctor or whoever you get health information from, and they should be able to help walk you through. Same with even honestly, if you have expensive drugs, you can actually negotiate directly with your drug provider. They'll hook you up. They'll get you a discount pharmacy, or they'll have their own pharmacy, and you can actually get the drugs cheaper that way. So there's lots of options.
Pro tip, I don't have a lot of experience with buying drugs, but I've negotiated cash prices on like drugs since I don't have a plan the last 2 years for my daughter. I literally went into the pharmacy and negotiated like 40% off the sticker price because they just jack it up for insurance companies. I had no idea there was such a scam going on with that. But if you can just buy cash and work out a deal.
I didn't call it a scam.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sued.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, it's not a scam. I don't know what it is. It's like they have to mark it up because there's more things associated. So it's definitely, I'm not going to mention the pharmacy where they do that. But what percentage of, we didn't answer that question. Okay, I got to scroll down because my phone got all funky. Yeah, so they're talking about being in Canada, so we don't have to pay. But I mean, you still have drugs that are not always covered. So
oh no, yeah, like in
drugs
Canada,
aren't covered
drugs
at all,
aren't
really.
covered, but unless it's administered in the hospital. However, again, there's all sorts of strategies.
Yeah.
Just real high level. If you have a special condition, your specialist, if you see a special doctor, they probably get all kinds of free trials to give out, samples to give out to their patients. Good doctors, if you talk to them and you're like, hey man, I don't have health insurance coverage, they'll be like, here's a shit ton of samples. Just tell no one.
Yeah.
And like then after you go through those samples, you can negotiate directly with the drug provider themselves,
If you have an
get lower
expensive drug,
prices.
that'd be
Yeah.
worth it, yeah.
So there's lots of options out there. If it's a major concern of yours, just dig deep into the subject matter and you'll be able to solve it.
Ask the right questions, right? Don't
Yeah.
just like take a.
Don't
face
accept
value
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's been probably our number one
Yes.
success thing is we never accept no's.
And my biggest regrets are when I accepted no's.
Right? Like a bank tells you no. It's like, okay, that was just one person's opinion.
Yeah.
You know, this business is going to fail. One person's opinion, right? Try to ignore those hater comments too, right?
Yeah.
On YouTube.
Or make
okay.
fun of them.
Yeah. Funny crypto joke, Mr. McKeever. Solution, Canada. Not on properties, just in general. Thank you again, Mike and Matt. Have a good bath or reading time. Like always, William always knows that I jump on for bath time. Usually at 8:30. I'm super late for that, and I got a half-hour drive home. Not much of a fire round, and Andrew's right. We've not been firing. I'm trying to go quick. I'll just talk really fast. Hello, guys. If I don't know, I'm implementing living frugally. Ellen says, I have saved up thousands of dollars, and the question is, where should I invest it? ETFs, exchange-traded funds, the easiest thing if you don't want to invest in real estate. You can be very diversified. There's now the all-in-one ETFs. I love them, big proponent. It's the easiest thing you can invest in. It's fully diversified in many different sectors globally. There are getting to be some really good all-in-one ETFs that are meant to just, you buy it, and that's it. It's a really cheap version of a mutual fund. Could be a good option for your money, especially until you save up enough to buy a property. I will look into life insurance to bundle. Yeah, good suggestion. Do you guys know any good property management companies in the area you can recommend from your experience? Well, it's us. I own a property management company. Maybe we could work something out. I'm not really looking to acquire more properties, but you never know.
I also have a property management software business that'll be announced in the near future. So
there you go. So if you want to
Stay
manage it
tuned for
yourself,
that.
he can make it more efficient.
And if you want someone else to manage it, maybe you can twist his arm.
You can maybe. There's been a couple of people who have twisted my arm to manage their property for them. There are a couple properties that I manage technically that I don't have ownership in. Okay, Mike's died. Everyone's saying that Mike died. Yeah, okay. I think we're pretty much at the end. How do I get over a fear of analyzing and doubting my own calculations? I find a property I think will cash flow, but then I overanalyze and doubt myself, and I end up not buying the property at all.
My number one suggestion would be if you got a network, have someone else look over your numbers.
Look over your numbers.
And then if not, compare the numbers you're calculating to a different property where the seller's providing you the cost as well, right? Just build up a reference bank.
Yep.
And just get multiple samples or multiple pieces of information from multiple properties.
I'm looking to get into a rental property in the next month or so. I live in Toronto. What's your opinion on Chatham versus Windsor? P.S. I don't like student rentals at all. So I guess it depends. Like
Chatham's a smaller city. It's a much smaller city. It's much
higher risk, way higher return.
Yeah. So like your major employers there are Union Gas, the Canadian Pension Fund, and maybe some municipal service stuff. So it's definitely, Union Gas was recently acquired. There's some like skepticism around what sort of cutbacks are going to be there. Super long term, I love Chatham because it's near enough to the 401 corridor that if we ever get a speed train, they've said that they want to have a stop in Chatham. If that happens, that will dramatically change Chatham. It will also be a great boost for markets like London and Windsor, but it will be night and day, the impact on Chatham.
For sure. Yeah, if that comes to fruition.
It'd be like having like a super GO train.
100%. Rob jumped in and said, great show, guys. Now go home to your daughter. It's 9:15. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I should actually go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We had like a couple hundred people probably tune on this
this
live
was
stream,
lots of fun.
which is awesome. I think we'll probably have to have Matt on the
Absolutely.
Wise Wall show again. We'll talk about maybe some more of the frugality stuff. We could
Yeah,
do maybe a
love to
live
dive
Mike and
into-
Matt
Yeah.
on fire
Yeah.
would be kind of cool.
We can definitely do that.
We can experiment and see what the
Mhm.
audience is kind of liking and riff off that. As always, guys, the secret to unlocking a wealthier you is to spend less, earn more, and maximize returns in that order of importance until you build that wealth, and then it's the inverse. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you this Saturday at noon for my upload, and then again next Wednesday.
Smash that like button.
Smash the like button, share it, and jump in the comments. If you're still watching this on the replay now and it's like 5 days later, I still want to hear you in the comments. I'd love to keep smash that like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're already subscribed and you haven't hit the notification bell, there's a lot of you guys, hit that notification bell. I want you to know when I drop new videos. That'd be great. So
Awesome.
that's my plug for today.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Bye.